Part 25. Martial Arts, Become Invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at Westlake. Chapter 241. It's a pity that the blood demon took the wrong path. Xiao Wuxia has read The Great Method of Transforming Blood, and he knows all the methods in it. Using the blood pool to absorb the essence and blood of the warrior can indeed help the blood demon break through the realm. But this approach has a huge flaw. Once the blood demon does this, the half-step to the realm of heaven and man will be the end of his martial arts in this life. Even until death, the blood demon can't go any further. What the blood demon did today was equivalent to cutting off his path to heaven and humanity. Logically speaking, as a powerful person at the peak of Grand Master, blood demon would not be so unwise. Is there something wrong with this blood demon? Xiao Wuxia was sarcastic in his heart. But what Xiao Wuxia didn't know was that the blood demon had no choice but to do this. When Xiao Wuxia transformed into Nangongye, he fought with the blood demon and beat the blood demon to death. Although the blood demon later relied on the demon, the injuries were restored by teaching kung fu and heavenly materials and earthly treasures, but his foundation was interrupted by Xiao Wuxia. In other words, after that battle, the blood demon was destined to be unable to break through to the realm of unity between heaven and man. Xiao Wuxia when he didn't expect it to lead to this result. Blood demon only discovered this after he recovered from his injuries, because no matter how hard he practiced, his skill could no longer be improved. At that time, the blood demon almost went crazy in his rage. Nangongye's decision to cut off his path to heaven and humanity was simply a revenge worse than killing his father and mother. The blood demon's hatred and murderous intention towards Nangongye reached its peak, and even all the water from all over the world could not wash it away. But he was no match for Nangongye, and revenge was impossible. Under the madness, the blood demon went to extremes and chose to practice the blood transformation technique, hoping to use its method to break through to the half-step realm of heaven and human beings. Only in this way can he have the possibility of revenge. Only then did the Jiayang Mansion murder case occur. In a sense, the Ten Jiayang Mansion murder case also has something to do with Xiao Wuxia. Call. In the center of the blood pool, on the Black Lotus platform, blood demon Yuquan took a long breath of turbid air. The turbid qi spread all over the body and turned into a white streak, which shot out like a sharp arrow and instantly penetrated the lotus platform at his feet. Then, the blood demon slowly opened his eyes. His eyes were scarlet, and his pupils had turned into vertical pupils, exuding a cold bloody light. The blood demon slowly glanced around, and when he saw Monk King Jingming, Yun Qianqiu, and Xiao Wuxia, he chuckled, "It's so exciting. The ones who just tried to break this blood cocoon were the three of you, right? It's a pity that you are one step late after all." Feeling the incomparable surge of true energy in his body, the blood demon suddenly looked up to the sky and smiled. The skill of a half-step celestial being cannot be compared to the peak of the Grand Master. Ha 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 ha. Laughter contains deep internal power, turning into invisible sound waves and rushing in all directions. Xiao Wuxia and the other three were able to block the sound wave impact with their internal power. But Feng Qingyang, Daoju, Zhenhui, and the blood-robed man could not stop it. Under the impact of this sound wave, all four people were bleeding from their orifices and suffered internal injuries. Amitabha. Monk Jingming recited the Buddha's name silently. Jingming used the Buddhist lion's roar technique, with a loud voice that blocked the blood demon's sound waves. Yun Qianqiu shouted coldly, "Quickly exit the underground palace, don't stay for a long time, leave directly. Walk. None of you can leave today." Blood demon Yuquan suppressed his smile and said coldly, "In order to celebrate my breakthrough to a half-step heavenly being, obediently offer your lives as a gift. It starts with you, the bald donkey of Buddhism." Blood Slayer. The blood demon struck with a palm, and the terrifying palm power gathered into a palm shadow and fell suddenly towards Jingming. The palm came quickly, and the powerful palm power had blocked all Jingming's escape routes, leaving him with no way out. Can escape. Jingming did not dare to be careless, and quickly destroyed all the true energy in the body, using the Golden Bell magic skill to its extreme. While the true energy and Golden Bell were protecting the body, Jingming shot out both palms. The palm shadow was divided into 2 parts, and the 2 parts were divided into 4 parts. 4 points, and 8. The palm shadows in the sky turned into 1 palm, and it was struck out heavily. It was the unique Buddhist skill, the 1000-armed Tathagata palm. It was a pity that the skills of the two were greatly different. The moment the 2 palms touched each other, the 1000-armed Tathagata palm it collapsed at the first touch. The blood butcher's hand slapped hard on the golden bell, and the golden bell exploded immediately. The killing move was broken, and Jingming was immediately counterattacked, and blood spurted from the corner of his mouth. Faced with the giant palm falling from the sky, Jingming had no way to hide. Put your hands together, close your eyes and wait for death. Jingming is a truly enlightened monk, he is not afraid of life and death. There is no fear in the face of death, only calmness. Bang! The blood butcher's hand slapped Jingming's Tianling cap hard, and Jingming directly turned into the blood mist disappeared. The eminent monks of the 2 Zen temples, the great master, Jingming, died. Uncle Jingming. Seeing Jingming being killed, Monk Zhenhui's eyes were filled with tears and he almost went crazy. But he was powerless. Even Jingming couldn't stop the blood demon's palm, let alone him. Blue Wings volley. Yun Kinkaio shouted angrily, swung his sword directly at the ceiling of the underground palace above his head. The sword was automatically unsheathed, and the 40-meter sword energy instantly penetrated the ceiling and went straight to the ground. At the same time, Yun Kinkaio turned into a sword light, grabbed Feng Qingyang and ran away. He didn't dare to stay for a moment. Yun Kinkaio was very self-aware and knew that the blood demon was already a half-step celestial being, and he couldn't fight against him at all. If he stayed, he would only die, so he turned around and ran away without saying a word. Unfortunately, the blood demon was faster. The shadow of the blood butcher's palm shot out of the air and instantly caught the escaping sword light in his palm. The palm shadow was squeezed hard, and the sword light collapsed. Yun Kinkaio and Feng Qingyang were both killed, and no bones were left. Devil, you deserve to die. Monk Zhenhui was furious. Although he knew he was no match for the blood demon, he was overwhelmed by his anger and lost his mind. He roared and charged towards the blood demon's Yuquan. Don't overestimate your capabilities. The blood demon glanced at him disdainfully, raised his hand and pointed out, killing Monk Zhenhui. Daoju was also killed by the blood demon. In the blink of an eye, the 3 great masters in the underground palace, 3 Xiaowuji is the only grand master left. You didn't escape? It's a bit beyond my expectation. The blood demon looked at Xiaowuji and sneered. Xiaowuji had no expression on his face and didn't say a word. He just looked at the blood demon indifferently. The blood demon continued, you are Xiaowuji, right? That Jinyu Weikinhu who repeatedly ruined the important affairs of my holy religion. For your sins, I should crush you to ashes. But today I have achieved great success and my skill has been further improved. It is a great joy, so I am in a good mood. If you are willing to become my blood slave, I can spare your life. After all, there are indeed few great masters as young as you in the world. How? The blood demon Yuquan stood with his hands behind his back, speaking condescendingly, and looked at Xiaowuji with contempt in his eyes. To him, Xiaowuji, a warrior in the early stage of a grand master, was no different from an ant. Xiaowuji glanced at the blood demon, smiled sarcastically, shook his head and said, blood demon, I haven't seen you for a few months, you have become a lot more courageous. I don't know who ran away in front of me last time. Is your injury healed? At this moment, Xiaowuji's voice changed. It became deep, majestic, and full of oppression. You. As soon as these words came out, Blood Demon Yuquin's expression suddenly changed. He stared at Xiao Wuji and asked in a low voice, "Who are you?" Xiao Wuji said, "Didn't you guess it? Why bother asking me?" The Blood Demon's eyes widened, murmured, "Impossible, this is impossible, you can't be that person. Nothing in this world is absolutely impossible." Xiao Wuji said indifferently, and his whole body was suddenly shrouded in mist. When the fog dissipated, Xiao Wuji had completely transformed into another person. His face was like jade, he was wearing a luxurious black robe, a golden crown on his head, and a white jade on his waist. The aura of Yuan. If not Nangongye, who the Blood Demon wants to kill, who else could it be? The only difference from last time is that last time Nangongye took Yuan Hong's sword, but this time he took Swaying Crazy Knife. Seeing Nangongye, the hatred and killing intent in Blood Demon Yuquin's heart suddenly burst out. "It's you. It's actually you. Nangongye is Xiao Wuji, and Xiao Wuji is Nangongye. You have deceived the eyes of the world, you hide it so deeply." The Blood Demon gritted his teeth. Xiao Wuji said coldly, "Everyone who knows my secret is dead, and you are no exception. So." Puff. Xiao Wuji pointed out, his finger force flew through the air, and instantly penetrated the eyebrows of the blood-robed man behind the Blood Demon. With a bang, the blood-robed man's head exploded and turned into a pile of minced meat. At this point, only Xiao Wuji and Blood Demon were left in the underground palace. Xiao Wuji smiled coldly at the Blood Demon and said calmly, "I will collect some interest first, isn't it too much?" The Blood Demon growled viciously, "I will kill you and use your body to bury the blood shadow with you. I will also take advantage of this opportunity to avenge my shame. Nangongye, take your life." Blood Slayer. The Blood Demon roared angrily, and his right foot suddenly fell to the ground, causing the earth to shake in an instant. At the same time, he raised his palm, and a palm fell suddenly. The thick real energy enveloped the surrounding blood, merged with the power of heaven and earth, and formed a huge palm to slap Xiao Wuji. Blood Slaughter Hand, the unique skill of Blood Demon Yuquin, is a genuine top-notch 9th level magical skill. Now that Blood Demon has broken through half a step of heaven and man, and merged with the power of heaven and earth, its power is more than 10 times stronger than the last time. It is overwhelming. The moment the giant palm appeared, the wind from the palm had already shattered the walls of the underground palace. It's a little trick, don't use it to embarrass yourself. Sad and gloomy. Xiao Wuji inserted the snow-drinking knife into the ground and used his palm skills to fight against the enemy. With one move, the most powerful killing move of the cloud-dispelling palm, the sad cloud burst out of the sky. Rolling clouds suddenly appeared out of thin air. A strong wind suddenly rose, merging the power of heaven and earth to form a huge palm. The shadow collided with the Blood Demon's Blood Slaughterer. Boom! The two palms collided, and the blood pool in the underground palace exploded inch by inch, and the blood pillars took off. The true essence exploded and spread out, forming ripples of true essence visible to the naked eye, like a tsunami. Generally, it rushes in all directions. Any ripple of true energy can easily kill the strong masters in the early and even middle stages of the Grand Master. Only the late Grand Master can protect himself in the aftermath of such a battle. With one move, superiority and inferiority can be distinguished. Xiao Wuji did not take a step back, but the Blood Demon took a dozen steps back in a row, and finally hit the wall of the underground palace heavily. Every time the Blood Demon took a step back, it would leave a deep hole on the ground that could submerge the ankle. Behind him the walls were shattered by him. Blood Demon, don't think that a person who has broken through half a step to heaven is my opponent, you are still far away. Xiao Wuji roared angrily, and used his killing move again. He used the cloud-paling palm to turn clouds and rain and the mountain-topping sea at the same time. The essence of these two moves has only one word, and that is fast. In an instant, Countless palm shadows shot out of the air, it hit the blood demon like a heavy rain. The palm force was as fast as turning the clouds and rain, and the force of the palm was as violent as an overwhelming mountain. The blood demon Nether Spring gathered the water in the blood pool for his own use, forming a blood curtain to resist Xiaowaji's continuous palm force. But it was just blood. How can you resist the tyranny of Peiyun Palm? Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at Westlake. Chapter 242. After more than a dozen palms, the blood curtain suddenly shattered. The blood demon took this opportunity to escape dozens of feet away, taking a breather temporarily. However, Xiaowaji's killer moves came one after another, this time using the heavy rain and storm from Fengshen's legs. The dense shadows of legs blocked all the blood demon's escape routes, giving the blood demon no chance to breathe. Boom! The ground shook, the underground palace crumbled, and large chunks of rocks fell down. The battle between two half-step celestial beings was so terrifying that the aftermath of the battle completely destroyed the underground palace. The heroes who fled to the outside world watched helplessly as Du Mansion collapsed and sunken, and a huge hole appeared. Then a shadow of blood and a strong wind rose into the sky from the bottom of the pit, and the two of them disappeared instantly. In the blink of an eye, Xiaowaji and the blood demon had arrived at the woods in the western suburbs. Just at this time, heavy snow fell from the sky, the ground was freezing and the wind was freezing. Xiaowaji and the blood demon stood facing each other in the blizzard. The two men were exuding hot true energy. The snowflakes falling from the sky melted and evaporated 10 feet away from the two of them. Blood demon, I haven't seen you for several months, but you still haven't made any progress and are still so weak. If I haven't even used 30% of my strength, you are already dead. Xiaowaji's voice was cold, like thunder. Blood demon Yuquan wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and said coldly, Nangong Ye, don't make such nonsense. I haven't used my killer move yet, it's too early to be proud now. Today I will show you the highest level of this blood slaughterer. Kill. With one word of anger, the bloody killing started again. With a fierce stamp, the ground suddenly collapsed and shattered. The blood demon's body erupted with terrifying true energy, flying towards Xiaowaji. His huge palm shot out of the air, hitting the vital point in Xiaowaji's heart. Welcome. Xiaowaji did not dodge or dodge, and pointed out with his backhand, hitting the blood demon's palm. The finger force was strong, as sharp as a knife, and his killing intent was like a sword. He instantly broke the true essence of the blood demon's palm and pierced his palm. The blood demon was injured, blood splattered, but he didn't take a step back. His left hand suddenly slapped Xiaowaji's lower abdomen. Xiaowaji also used his left hand to fight the enemy, tearing the sky and discharging clouds with one palm to face the blood demon. When the two palms collided, the true energy exploded, and the blood demon's his body paused and flew out. On the other hand, Xiaowaji not only did not take a step back, but also did not even shake his body. The blood demon stepped on his foot to stop his retreat, and at the same time slapped his palm on the ground, hitting Xiaowaji. The finger force that entered his body was forced out of his body. Looking at the blood hole in his palm, the blood demon looked solemn and his face was extremely gloomy. Xiaowaji sneered and said, "Isn't my jade-breaking gold-dividing power pretty good? Don't think that I am only good at swordsmanship and palm skills. My fingering skills are not bad either." The one Xiaowaji used just now was not the Lingzi finger, but the broken jade and gold finger among the three divine fingers. After learning the three Ju magic techniques, Xiaowaji had already integrated the three Ju and successfully practiced the three Ju returning energy. This broken jade point Jin is the killing move among the 3-point returning vitality and one of the 3-point divine finger moves. Although this move lacks some changes, it is more powerful because of its strong finger strength and is most suitable for frontal attacks. With one move, the blood demon was really affected. Create. Look, I have broken your proud finger. The blood demon encourages the blood demon to weep blood. The blood demon's quiet spring roared wildly, and the surrounding blood energy exploded. Chi and blood smoke rose into the sky, hovering in the sky above its head. Rolling true energy burst out of the air, forming a ferocious and ugly demon god with 3 heads and 6 arms. The demon god appeared in the world, 6 arms clenched a bloody knife and slashed at Xiao Wuji angrily. It's still a trivial skill, not worth mentioning. 3 points of return to vitality. Xiao Wuji's eyes were cold, he clasped his palms together and raised his head to the heavenly spirit. Heiran's true energy surged out and formed a sphere. The size of the sphere was not large, and it was dozens of times smaller than the blood knife chopped down in the air. But the sphere it is transformed from the purest true essence, and at the same time condenses the power of heaven and earth. The moment it appears, a true beam of light rises into the sky, straight into the sky, causing the color of the heaven and earth to change, and the clouds to boil. Only lightning and thunder can be heard in the sky, and a whirlpool of black clouds is forming. As if the end of the world is coming. The 3-point return to vitality requires the integration of the long legs of the wind god, the fierceness of the cloud-dispelling palm, and the cold internal power of the Tianshuang fist. The 3 absolute magical skills are closely coordinated, and under the simultaneous use of the 3 absolutes, they blast from different directions. Fight fiercely. At the same time, the internal and external complement each other, and the 3 elements flow, thereby achieving the state of natural transformation, attack and defense, and endless life. At this moment, Xiao Wuji displays the 3 points of return to vitality. The power is really shocking, weeping ghosts and gods. Boom! The blood knife slashes. On top of the true UN sphere, he was directly blocked and could not advance even an inch. Xiao Wuji raised his palm to the sky, as if he had blocked the blood demon's killing blow with just one hand. This is impossible. Seeing that the killing move was blocked, the blood demon's eyes suddenly widened and burst into tears, and he roared in disbelief. Nothing is impossible, it can only be said that if you sit in a well and look at the sky, you don't know how big the world is. 3 points of return to vitality. Xiao Wuji struck out with a palm, and the demon god's 80-meter-long blood knife suddenly shattered inch by inch. The true energy sphere burst out of the air and hit the demon god's chest. There was a loud bang, and a big hole was blown out of the demon god's chest. Blood. The demon's body was also impacted by the true energy, and he staggered back, vomiting out a mouthful of blood again. Xiao Wuji took advantage of the victory to pursue, and 3 points of returned vitality surged out, and the attack hit the demon phantom like a violent storm. A series of attacks next, the blood demon can only be beaten, vomiting blood again and again, and getting injured more and more. Blood demon, is this all you have? If you only have this ability, then I will send you to hell. 3/3 of the world. Extremely urgent. Xiao Wuji raised his hands together and connected his sword fingers. Suddenly, countless finger shadows suddenly appeared, attacking the blood demon Yuquan from all directions. 3-point world and 100,000 fire emergency are the killing moves of the 3-point divine finger. The former specializes in breaking through hard skills, using hard skills to defeat hard ones. The finger strength is faintly aimed at important acupoints such as Yintang, Tanzong, and Qi, and the fingers are used to attack the enemy in 3 directions, upper, middle, and lower. And the most urgent thing is to be fast and fierce. The finger shadows in the sky block all the retreat routes of the blood demon. When used in conjunction with the 3-point world, the power is more than doubled. Boom! 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 In Xiao Wuji's stormy offensive next, the phantom of the demon god behind the blood demon exploded, was directly beaten into powder, and disappeared. The blood demon himself was injured, and countless blood spurted out from the body surface. His whole body shot out, smashing more than a dozen big trees in the sky. Cough cough cough. Poof. In the ruins, the gore demon coughed violently and vomited blood. He was bleeding from all his orifices, and his whole body was covered with blood holes, and blood trickled out. At a glance, the gore demon's body was already riddled with holes. But this was just a traumatic injury, and the blood demon also suffered internal injuries. Xiao Wuji's finger power broke into the blood demon's body and ran rampant inside the blood demon's body, destroying the blood demon's internal organs and strange muscles and 8 meridians wantonly. The blood demon wanted to use his power to suppress it, but was helpless. The injuries were too serious and could not be suppressed at all. An ordinary person would have died more than 100 times after being so seriously injured. But the blood demon was still alive. The vitality of a half-step celestial powerhouse was not comparable to ordinary people. The blood demon destroyed his internal strength and temporarily protected him. His own heart to save his life. But he knew that doing so could only relieve his temporary worries. If he did not heal his injuries in time, he would surely bleed to death. It was a pity that the current blood demon would not even mention healing. He would do whatever he wanted to do to escape. Not there. The wind was howling, and Xiao Wuji came to a big tree in front of the blood demon and looked at him condescendingly, his eyes as cold as ice. "Blood demon, no one will come to save you today." The blood demon looked up at Xiao Wuji and smiled ferociously, "I don't need anyone to save me. Nangong, yeah, I admit, you won this time. But even if I die, I will drag you to be buried with me." The blood demon instigates the nirvana of the blood demon. The blood demon nether spring roared up to the sky, and the sound spread for dozens of miles, shaking the heaven and the earth. I saw the blood demon nether spring rising into the sky, and the billowing bloody essence overflowed from every pore on the body surface, converging with the blood all over the body. Together, the demon god's shadow reappeared, but it was more solid than before, and the aura pressure was more terrifying. The power of heaven and earth surged in, all converging on the demon god's shadow. The terrifying power caused drastic changes in the sky. The blood demon had already huge changes have taken place. His strong body has become as thin as a stick, and his straight back is arched. He originally looked like a middle-aged man, with blood-colored beard and hair. But now his beard and hair have turned white and full of his face is covered with wrinkles, and his body exudes an aura of decay. This is the true age and appearance of blood demon Yuquan. In the past, he had deep internal energy, so he could maintain the appearance of a middle-aged man. But now all his true energy and internal energy exploded, and he could no longer maintain the appearance of a middle-aged man. This also shows what kind of price the blood demon paid for this blow. After this blow, the blood demon himself will definitely die. Ha 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 ha, Nangong, yeah, please be buried with me. The blood demon Yuquan looked up to the sky and laughed, extremely happy. The demon with 3 heads and 6 arms roared with a sound. He swallowed the blood demon in one bite, and then his body exploded, turning into a sea of blood and roaring towards Xiao Wuji. The thunder god is angry. The speed of the sea of blood was so fast that Xiao Wuji had no time to dodge. In an instant, Xiao Wuji directly used the third form of the 4 symbols of heaven's will, thunder god's wrath. The 100-meter thunder god's shadow took shape instantly, the surrounding lightning flashed, and thunder exploded in the sky. The wind roared angrily. The 100-meter god of thunder struck the sea of blood with his palm, and immediately shattered the sea of blood into pieces. However, after the sea of blood shattered, it regrouped and turned into a small stream of blood that drowned the god of thunder, Li Zhao's. It can be said that it was a beating. The water flows even more when the sword is cut. Thousands of ghosts roar in the sea of blood, piercing strange laughter sounds from all directions, and there is also the maddening roar of the blood demon fountain. No matter you are Nangong Ye or Xiao Wuji, you are dead today. Facing the murderous intentions coming from all directions, Xiao Wuji was extremely awe-inspiring. The phantom of the thunder god clasped his hands together, and endless thunder and lightning emerged around him. Thunder and lightning bombarded the sea of blood, defeating and annihilating it. Skeletons appeared in the sea of blood. He tried to bite the god of thunder's body, but was blown apart by lightning. Blood demon, this move can't kill me. Xiaowaji roared, instantly arousing the power of heaven and earth. The aura of the thunder god's shadow surged, and a giant thunderbolt was drawn down from the clouds in the sky and struck on the thunder god's shadow. The image of the thunder god's shadow changed drastically, and its face became more majestic. The fourth form of the four symbols of God's will, the wrath of the god of lightning. The god of lightning roars, controls thunder and lightning with both palms, pierces into the sea of blood, and tears the sea of blood apart. Countless skeletons in the sea of blood howl and scream, and the blood demon fountain also screams continuously. The thunder in the sky became louder, and the whirlpool became more ambitious. At this moment, the terrifying celestial phenomenon could be seen for hundreds of miles around Jieyang Mansion. The most powerful gods in the world also felt it. The one who was discovered was naturally the ancestor of the royal family who was in seclusion in the Tongtian Pavilion in Jinling City. In the Tongtian Pavilion, the ancestor of the royal family had opened his eyes. He looked up to the sky in the distance, his expression a little solemn. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full level magic system. Author, drunk in March at Westlake. Chapter 243. In Tongtian Pavilion, the ancestor of the royal family has opened his eyes. He raised his eyes to look at the sky in the distance, his expression a little solemn. If Xiaowaji were here, he would definitely recognize that this heavenly ancestor was the one who recruited him as a guest that day. It's just a half-step battle between heaven and humans, don't pay attention to it. Just when the royal celestial ancestor wanted to check the situation, a voice suddenly sounded in his ears. The voice was extremely majestic and contained an order that could not be refused. When the royal celestial ancestor heard this voice, he respectfully, after saying yes, he closed his eyes again and ignored it. In a certain brothel in Jinling City, an old man with white hair and beard held two charming warrens in his arms and was tasting fine wine. This man was obviously Old Man Tianji. Tianji the old man has never left Jinling City. He has visited almost all the brothels in Jinling City in the past few months. The old man Tianji, who was originally smiling, suddenly became startled and looked out the window. Jinling is more than 500 miles away from Jieyang Mansion, so people can't see the apocalyptic celestial phenomenon. But old man Tianji can sense it. His pupils turn pure white, and his eyes seem to be able to accommodate the heaven, earth, and universe, with countless stars shining in them. In the eyes of old man Tianji, there is a patch of sky in the north. Shadows covered the sky and the sun. After a deep look, old man Tianji looked away and chuckled twice. There are really more and more masters these days. If this continues, even I, the old man, will have no place to stand. But this time, old man Tianji didn't go out to join in the fun. Instead of watching other people fight, he would rather stay in the brothel and drink and have fun with the Warren dancers. Sir, have another drink. And Warren next to him handed over the wine. Old man Tianji chuckled, took the wine and drank it in one gulp. At the same time, he hugged the Warren into his arms. At the same time, the Wuxia Mountain Patriarch Hall, Fuxianman Sword Pavilion, and two in the Zen Temple Demon Suppressing Tower and the Demon Sect Suanadiao Cave, there were strong celestial beings who sensed the fierce battle in Jieyang Mansion. However, these strong celestial beings did not move out. After being slightly surprised, there was no more movement. Half a step. Although heaven and man are strong, they are not truly strong in the unity of heaven and man after all. They are not qualified to allow them, the real strong in the unity of heaven and man, to travel thousands of miles to watch the battle. Suanyao Cave, in a luxurious palace. The demon Sek Suan Zun Shang Guan Ao took a deep look into the distance and suddenly felt a little upset. He felt that something important happened in the outside world that was closely related to him. If he didn't take a look, he would definitely regret it. But at the moment, he was in retreat. At the critical moment, he couldn't leave at all. He also didn't have the energy to separate the incarnations of heaven and man to investigate. For a strong man who unites nature and man, every time he has some insights and every opportunity to go further, it is elusive. Once he misses it, there may not be a second chance in this life. After weighing the pros and cons, Suanzun Shang Guan Ao did not take action, but closed the 5 senses and 6 consciousnesses and began to practice in seclusion. The whim of the moment was ultimately no match for his own martial arts. The western suburbs of Jieyang Mansion in the dense forest, the battle between Xiao Wuji and the blood demon Yuquan is coming to an end. The 100-meter phantom of the furious god of electricity exerts its power and controls the thunder and lightning to tear apart the blood sea inch by inch and evaporate. The blood sea turns into the phantom of the demon god again, but its aura is weak, dilapidated, and on the verge of collapse. The blood demon in the demon god's body was even more dying and could not even open his eyelids. Blood demon, that's it for now, go to hell. Xiao Wuji roared wildly, and the electric god's shadow raised his huge palm, then turned his palm into a finger and pointed at the devil's shadow. The powerful true energy exploded, and, babe, 3 red, green, and blue lights merged into one like a discharge. The finger's strength is focused on the eyebrows of the demon god's phantom. This is the return to origin strike, the strongest killing move among the 3 divine fingers. At this moment, Xiao Wuji uses the lightning god's wrath to perform the return to origin strike, and its power is even more powerful than the original one, was more than 10 times stronger. Boom! With one finger falling, the demon god's shadow trembled slightly, and then the body surface was instantly covered with cracks. With a bang, the demon god's shadow exploded, turning into fragments of pure essence and disappearing into thin air. The body surface of blood demon Yuquan is also full of cracks, as if it will dissipate between heaven and earth at any time. In fact, blood demon is already dead, but he still has the last breath of true energy that has not dissipated. After merging the power of heaven and earth, there is still the residual thoughts survived. The blood demon's whole body glowed. He looked at Xiao Wuji and smiled. Nangong, yeah, Xiao Wuji, you will definitely die at the hands of a strong man from my holy religion. I am waiting for you under the 9 springs, ha 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 ha. The blood demon looked up to the sky and laughed, and then his body was shattered into pieces and turned into flying ashes. At this moment, a golden light fell from the clouds in the sky, hitting the blood demon's body and sucking it into the sky. Golden light flashed in the clouds, and lightning flashed thunder. The celestial phenomenon at this moment was even more terrifying than when Xiao Wuji exploded with all his strength. The roar spread to almost every corner of the world. It is recorded in the Jinyue archives that whenever a powerful person dies, a celestial phenomenon will appear in the world and tell the world. This must be what he is talking about. Xiao Wuji looked at the celestial phenomenon, without making any movement, just watching quietly. His mind automatically recalled the Jinyue files he had seen before. Strange phenomena appeared in the sky, and the sky fell. Xiao Wuji didn't believe it before, but now he believes it. Although blood demon Yuquan is not a true strong man who combines heaven and man, he is a half-step heavenly man and can already control the power of heaven and earth. When he dies, the heaven and earth will respond, so there will be drastic changes in the sky. If Xiao Wuji dies, the heaven and earth will also feel it. At this moment, not only masters of the unity of heaven and man can sense this celestial phenomenon. Even ordinary people who have never learned martial arts can see it with the naked eye. What's going on here? Is the sky falling? God is angry. It must be the emperor's lack of moral integrity that makes God angry. God, calm down, God, calm down. Forgive the world. Some ignorant people did not know what was going on. When they saw the terrifying celestial phenomena, they thought that God was angry and was going to bring disaster. Some people even knelt down and kowtowed. Only those who understand the details inside, only then did the master warriors know what happened. At this moment, every great master warrior in the world looked at the vision in the sky from a distance, and they all broke out in cold sweat and were dumbfounded. Strange phenomena appear in the sky, and the gods and humans fall. How is it possible that a strong man who is one of nature and man has fallen? How could this happen? The great masters and powerful men are all in disbelief and cannot accept this reality. In their eyes, the powerful man who unites heaven and man is like a god. He is an invincible existence. How can he fall? Only a heavenly man can. The expressions of the Hai masters were as usual. They had already sensed the battle between the two half-step heavenly beings before. Now that a strange phenomenon has occurred, it seems that the winner has been determined. It's a pity that I couldn't take that step after all. The road to martial arts is full of thorns, and if you don't have enough opportunities, you will never reach the top. There is another comrade missing in this world. Several strong men of the unity of heaven and man shook their heads and sighed. In their eyes, only those who are half-step to the level of heaven and man are worthy of letting them take a second look, and they are qualified to call them comrades. In the world, the weak will eat the strong, and the strong will survive. The weak die. Countless blood corpses pave the way, and there is a faint possibility of reaching the top. In the end, the old dog blood demon Yuquan was unable to change his fate and died in the hands of Xiaowaji. The moment the blood demon died, the system's electronic eye immediately rang. Ding! It was detected that the host killed the demon sect protector blood demon Yuquan, and has completed the task of slaying demons and slaying demons. Do you want to receive the reward? Receive. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining the full-level Holy Spirit sword skill. The rewards are being distributed and the distribution is completed. Xiaowaji's body shook, and a powerful sword intent burst out from his body instantly. A huge message flooded into his mind, and the fierce sword skills were deeply imprinted in Xiaowaji's memory. Holy Spirit sword. The method comes from the world of wind and cloud, and is the secret art of swordsmanship created by the sword master. The Holy Spirit sword technique is divided into 4 levels. Sword 1 to Sword 18 are extremely fast and sharp. Sword 18 takes 3 are inexhaustible, 6 and 6 are endless, created with the intention of being able to trap the enemy with a sword net. It is a ruthless sword technique. Sword 19 to Sword 22 are completely different. These 4 sword techniques are ruthless, and they are ruthless sword techniques that are ruthless and righteous. Sword 23 is the perfect sword and the sword of the soul. This sword is also known as the 23 heaven-destroying sword and the earth-destroying sword. Once this sword is released, it can suppress time and space and is invincible. No matter how strong you are, you can only kill by pulling your neck, close your eyes and wait for death. Above the 23 swords of destroying heaven and earth, there are the 23 swords of sentient heaven and earth and the 23 swords of 6 destroying selflessness. The Holy Spirit sword technique is the supreme art of swordsmanship. Under the indoctrination of the system, Xiaowaji's understanding of the Holy Spirit sword technique instantly reached the full level. A terrifying sword intent burst out from Xiaowaji's body, gathered together, and formed a thick beam of light, soaring into the sky and instantly penetrating the depths of the sky. Clouds. The sky changes color, the wind howls, lightning flashes, and thunder. Xiaowaji opens his hands, closes his eyes, and his whole body is enveloped by the beam of light and slowly flies up. Surrounded by endless sword energy, it blocks the sky and the sun, as if a sword energy has been formed. The ocean. That is the realm of sword energy. At this moment, the area around Xiaowaji has become a forbidden area. Even if a half-step celestial being breaks in, he will be torn into pieces by the endless sword energy, leaving no intact body. Xiaowuji, the ocean in Danshan rioted, an endless inner energy of true energy surged out, rushing into the 8 extraordinary meridians, and flowing to the limbs and bones. Boom! At a certain moment, a vague muffled sound came from Xiaowuji's body. Xiaowuji broke after reaching the bottleneck, he broke through. At this moment, Xiaowuji successfully broke through from half-step of heaven to the realm of unity of heaven and man. The majestic power of heaven and earth swept in, and was used by Xiaowuji for his own use, while transforming his body. Every inch of flesh and blood in Xiaowuji's body has become tougher under the transformation of the power of heaven and earth. Even a full-strength blow from the Grand Master's peak powerhouse cannot hurt Xiaowuji at all. In addition to his physical body, Xiaowuji's spirit has also changed. Qualitative change began to sublimate. Xiaowuji's 6 senses improved on the original basis. He discovered that even with his eyes closed, he could see everything in the outside world, and he could see it more clearly than the naked eye. It was like there was another pair of eyes in the body looking at the outside world. Xiaowuji knew that it was the Yuan Shen. The Yuan Shen is something that everyone is born with, but people cannot feel it and cannot destroy it. But as long as they break through the realm of the unity of nature and man, you can use the power of the primordial spirit. For example, the incarnation of the celestial being is an application technique of the power of the primordial spirit. The moment Xiaowuji broke through to the realm of the celestial being, he naturally understood how to construct the celestial being. Incarnation. The incarnation of heaven and man is not only composed of the power of heaven and earth and true essence, but also needs to incorporate a trace of the power of the soul. Only in this way can the incarnation have spiritual intelligence and can act independently. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at Westlake. Chapter 244. With a thought in Xiaowuji's mind, the power of heaven and earth surged around him, forming a new Nangong Knight. This Nangongya looks exactly like him now, without any difference. Moreover, the two have the same mind and share the same vision. The deity can control the incarnations of gods and humans, and the incarnations of gods and humans can also act independently. Boom! There was lightning and thunder in the sky, and suddenly all the thunder and lightning disappeared, and the golden light bloomed in the deep clouds. The golden light fell and enveloped Xiaowuji. Xiaowuji felt warm and comfortable all over his body. Just as heaven and earth fall, the heaven and earth will respond. Someone breaks through to the realm of unity between heaven and man, and heaven and earth will also respond. This golden light was the heaven and earth celebration of Xiaowuji's breakthrough. The huge change in the sky's vision cannot be hidden from the world's powerful people, especially the masters who combine heaven and man. They were very familiar with the celestial phenomena at this moment, because they also experienced all this when they broke through. Someone actually broke through to the realm of unity between man and nature. The direction is still there. Does it mean killing to prove the Tao? Such a fierce sword intent, is it actually a swordsman who made the breakthrough this time? There is another Taoist friend in the world, you should go and see him. I hope I'm not a demon. One by one, the heavenly beings created the incarnations of heavenly beings and rushed towards the direction of Xiaowuji. The fastest ones were naturally the royal ancestors of the heavenly beings and the old man Tianji in Jinling City. Half of the heavenly beings fell before, the ancestor of the royal family can still ignore it. But this time someone breaks through to the true realm of heaven and man, he must go and see it. If it is not an enemy, it needs to be won over. If it is an enemy, it must be eradicated early. Old man Tianji is not slow either. After the incarnation of the heavenly man appeared, he disappeared instantly. In the woods on the western outskirts of Jieyang Mansion, the strange phenomenon in the sky slowly dissipated, and the golden light disappeared. Xiaowuji was suspended in the air, with nothing under his feet, but he could soar through the void. This is the power of heaven and earth. An application technique. Only when one has mastered the power of heaven and earth to a certain extent can it be done. It can also be regarded as a sign of the strong man who unites nature and man. With a thought, the incarnations of heaven and man around him will automatically dissipate. Xiao Wuji sensed it. Looking towards the south, I saw two streams of light shooting out one after the other, arriving in front of Xiao Wuji in an instant. The streamers showed their true form. They were Nangong's old acquaintances, and they were the ancestors of the royal family and heavenly beings. Old man Tianji. As expected, it was fellow Taoist Nangong. Long time no see. Tianji old man stroked his beard and laughed, and raised his hands to Xiao Wuji. A trace of surprise flashed in the eyes of the ancestor of the royal family, Tianren, and he smiled and said, "Last time I saw fellow Taoist Nangong, you were only half a step ahead." Heavenly being. Unexpectedly, I haven't seen you for several months, and my Taoist friend has already reached the level of heaven and human beings, and is now on par with us. Fellow Taoist talent is truly rare in the world, so congratulations. Xiao Wuji smiled and replied, "I and the two of you are really destined. It seems like no matter where I go, I can meet the two of them." Ha 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 ha. After saying that, the three of them looked at each other and smiled. At this moment, the three of them looked to the north at the same time. They saw 4 streams of light flying from the sky. The streamers were extremely fast and appeared far away on the horizon. He was already close in half a breath. Among the 4 streams of light, one was sword light, surrounded by sword energy, which was frightening. One of them was golden light, accompanied by bursts of Sanskrit sounds, which made people feel peaceful. The third stream was a ball of clear water. Qi. The pure Qi is accompanied by the yin and yang Qi, forming a round of Tai Chi diagram. The last one is a bloody light. Xiao Wuji is familiar with the domineering aura in the bloody light. The 4 flowing lights reveal their true voices. One of them is a young man, and he looks like he is only in his mid-20s. He is dressed in white and has black hair hanging around his shoulders. He has a distinguished temperament, a handsome face, and a strong breath. He carries a sword on his back. The second person is a monk, about 40 years old, smiling from beginning to end. He, with a kind face, wearing Buddhist beads in his left hand, and holding a golden bowl in his right hand. The monk saw Xiao Wuji and said hello with a smile. The third man was wearing a Taoist robe, about 40 years old, with a resolute and steady face, and on the Taoist robe, engraved with countless characters and a yin and yang diagram. In Xiao Wuji's eyes, those characters are alive and can move around, but Xiao Wuji does not recognize the characters. The yin and yang diagram will also rotate, exuding bursts of Taoist rhymes. Obviously, one of these 3 people is from Fuxianmen of Jianmen, one is from Liangchan Temple of Buddhism, and the other is from Chixiashan of Daemen. There are only those who are strong in the unity of heaven and man in the great Zhou dynasty. The 3 leaders of Zhendao are the sect. Although they look very young, the oldest is only in his 40s. But in fact, these 3 are old monsters, at least over 100 years old. The 4th person is Xiao Wuji's old acquaintance, Shang Guan'ao, Suanzun of the demon sect. He doesn't have to come to the half-step battle between heaven and man, but if someone breaks through the true unity of heaven and man, he must come. A heavenly being is enough to break the balance. For the hegemony of the demon sect, he had to find out the identity of the other party. After Shang Guan'ao arrived, he did not dare to get close, and stood far away, watching the several heavenly beings with fearful expressions on their faces. When he finally saw Nangongye, his eyes were cold and murderous intent was revealed. Nangongye's breakthrough in the unity of heaven and man is the worst news for the demon sect. Because Nangongye and the demon sect have a blood feud, the two are destined to be unable to coexist. In the future, the demon sect will embark on the great cause of restoring the country, and Nangongye will definitely become an obstacle. Now, Suanzun Shangguanao has murderous intentions in his heart. All fellow Taoists are here. Old man Tianji seemed to be familiar with everyone. He was the first to say hello and said with a smile, we haven't seen each other for more than 40 years, right? In the blink of an eye, 40 years have passed, and all of you are still young, handsome, and good-looking. Only the old man, I, have become old and frail, and my candle is dying in the wind. Old man Tianji shook his head and sighed. The Buddhist monk said with a smile, Donor Ximen is joking. Donor Ximen has a high level of cultivation and is blessed by heaven. He must have a longer life than the rest of us. The Taoist priest crossed his arms and curled his lips and said, this old man Ximen likes to play the set of human tricks. Don't you understand him after so many years? After saying that, he looked at old man Tianji and said, you must have just come out of the brothel again, right? The smell of fat and powder on my body hasn't gone away yet. At such an old age, you still like to harm other people's little girls. Are you still shameless? Even if you like to go to brothels, why not change your face? An old man visits a brothel every day, and he is not afraid of people saying that he is old and not ashamed. In response to the Taoist priest's ridicule, old man Tianji was not angry and smiled without replying. Only then did Xiao Wuji find out that old man Tianji's original surname was Ximen, but he still didn't know his full name. The last Jianmen young man didn't say a word and has been there since he arrived. Looking at Xiao Wuji, scanning him back and forth, he felt a little confused. Because he sensed that the person who broke through this time was a swordsman. But Xiao Wuji didn't have a sword on him, which was really suspicious. Let me introduce it to you. Old man Tianji looked at Nangongya and said, this is Fixianman sword ancestor Chang Kongwuji, Liangchan Temple Xiantong Master and Chixiashan Xiao Aizai Genren. As for this new Taoist friend, his name is Nangongya. Seniors, please be polite. Xiao Wuji clasped his fists, neither humble nor arrogant. Fellow Taoist Nangong is polite. Chang Kongwuji, Xiantong, and Xiao Aizai also returned the favor one by one. Please give me flowers. Although they are seniors, Xiao Wuji is also a strong man who combines nature and man. Naturally, they will not put on the airs of their seniors. Old man Tianji smiled and said, except of these people, the last one probably doesn't need to be introduced by the old man. Fellow Taoist Nangong should know him. While speaking, everyone's eyes were looking at Shangguanao, the demon sect Suanzun in the distance. Sword ancestor Chang Kongwuji's eyes were dull and unruffled. Xiao Aizai's face was expressionless, and he didn't know what he was thinking. Xiantong was still smiling, with a face full of good intentions. Only the ancestor of the royal family had cold eyes and murderous intent. Shangguanao, you actually have the courage to appear in front of me, you are so courageous. The ancestor of the royal family shouted sharply, and the murderous aura surged out, rushing towards Shangguanao. The royal family of the great Zhou dynasty and the Shangguan clan are mortal enemies. Now that the mortal enemies meet, they naturally confront each other and are full of anger. Shangguanao waved his sleeves and shocked the murderous aura. He walked away and said coldly, what is there that I don't dare to do? What can you do to me? The ancestor of the royal family sneered and said, you should be glad that the one who came here today is just an incarnation of a heavenly being. If the real body comes, I will definitely let you be buried here. Shangguanao sneered, who lives and who dies is not determined by words, but by fists. Xiaolushan, you have low qualifications. You just broke through to heaven by luck. What qualifications do you have to bark in front of me? If I come in my true form, how can you stand up to me? Do you think it's still 18 years ago? My strength is no longer what it used to be. I might as well tell you that in a short time, our holy religion will counterattack. After all, this world belongs to my Shangguan clan. The royal family, he snorted coldly, the Shangguan clan has long since expired. God is not willing, and only you remnants from the previous dynasty are still daydreaming. Little do you know that from the beginning, you had no chance of winning. Shang Guan'ao shouted coldly. Okay, I won't talk nonsense with you. I am here this time for you. After saying that, he looked at Nangong Ye, his eyes were downcast, with a cold light flashing. Nangong. Ye folded his hands on his chest, held his head high, and sneered. What, it wasn't enough to run away last time, but you still want to humiliate yourself? Shang Guanao's pupils shrank and he said indifferently, Nangong Ye, don't think that you can be arrogant by breaking through the unity of heaven and man. You are still far away. If you are an enemy of my holy religion, you will only die. Stop talking nonsense, these threats sound like farts to me. Xiao Wuji looked at Shang Guan'ao, his sword intent surged. Since you're here, don't leave. I might as well tell you that the half-step heavenly being I killed just now was the head protector of your demon sect, Blood Demon Yuquan. He concocted a murder case in Jieyang Mansion and finally broke through to become a half-step heavenly being. But just when he was at his most glorious, he was killed by me with just one finger. You saved him last time and saved his life. But this time, he obviously wasn't so lucky. It is destined that he will die in my hands. The blood demon is dead. Shang Guanao's eyes widened. Yes, and you are no exception. After saying that, Xiao Wuji raised his hand and pointed out. Boom. Heiran's sword intention wrapped up the power of heaven and earth and turned into a giant sword energy. It shot out of the air and instantly penetrated Xianzun Shang Guanao's eyebrows, smashing it into powder. Shang Guan'ao couldn't even say a harsh word, and disappeared into smoke. This sword was clearly the Holy Spirit sword technique sword 22, and the death sword intent burst out, shocking the hearts of several heavens. I will kill your incarnation first and take it as interest. One day, I will kill your real body. Xiao Wuji retracted his sword finger, and the death sword intention on his body slowly dissipated, and he returned to peace and martial arts, become invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at Westlake. Chapter 245. Good Swordsmanship. Flying Immortal Sex Sword Ancestor Chang Kongwuji couldn't help stroking his palms in admiration. His achievements surged in his eyes, and his body erupted with fierce sword intent. They are both heavenly beings in the way of swordsmanship, so naturally they want to differentiate themselves. When it comes to swordsmanship, Chang Kongwuji claims to be the best in the world. No one can discuss swordsmanship with him. For many years, Chang Kongwuji has been depressed and lonely. Just because no one can discuss swordsmanship with him, and pursue the peak of swordsmanship together. The road of martial arts is difficult and dangerous, and the road of swordsmanship is even more difficult to reach the sky. The help brought by a powerful opponent is much greater than that of one person thinking hard. A hardy battle can bring greater experience than 20 years of hard training and seclusion. If he hadn't come here today as an incarnation of a heavenly being, Chang Kongwuji couldn't wait to have a fight with Nangong Ye right away. Fellow Taoist Nangong, if there is a chance, you and I must discuss swords. Chang Kongwuji looked at Xiao Wuji and said with stern eyes. Xiao Wuji smiled and said, Sword Ancestor is interested, so naturally I will not refuse. If given the chance, I will go to Fuxianmen. Chang Kongwuji smiled and said. Then Chang Kongwuji will be waiting for you, Taoist friend. When several people around heard that Nangong Ye and Chang Kongwuji had made a sword discussing agreement, their interest increased greatly. Old man Tianji stroked his beard and said, the battle between sword ancestor Chang Kongwuji and fellow Taoist Nangong is a rare one in 100 years. I must inform the old man when the time comes, and I must go to watch the battle. Daemon. Xiao Aizai crossed his arms and said, 1, 2, 7, old man Ximen, if you don't go to the Warren to drink and have fun, why are you going to Fuxianmen to join in the fun? How can a fight between two grown men be compared to a charming and charming beauty? Ha 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 ha. Everyone laughed. Everyone, we haven't seen each other for many years. We should have talked all night long, but the timing is not good at the moment, so I will take my leave first. The ancestor of the royal family clasped their fists and said something, and everyone clasped their fists in return. Farewell. After the ancestor of the royal family finished speaking, he turned into a stream of light and shot into the distance. Amitabha, the poor monk has also taken the first step. Fellow Taoist Nangong, if you have the opportunity, you can come to Liangchan Temple to discuss Taoism with the poor monks. Xiantong finished speaking with a smile. The golden light around his body was strong, and the phantom of the Buddha appeared behind him. The golden light flew away in a swish, and disappeared into the sky in an instant. The poor Taoist has also left. If fellow Taoist Nangong is interested, he can also come to Wuxia mountain, and Xiao Aizai will sweep up his bed to welcome him. After Xiao Aizai finished speaking, his figure turned into a ball of mist and disappeared. A yin-yang diagram appeared out of thin air under the night sky in the distance. The yin-yang diagram rotated rapidly and finally disappeared without a trace. After Xiao Aizai was the sword ancestor Chang Kongwuji, who turned into the sword light disappeared. In the blink of an eye, of the 6 heavenly masters, only Xiao Wuji and old man Tianji were left. Fellow Taoist Nangong, they have all left. How about going to the brothel with the old man and me? Old man Tianji laughed strangely and said the old man's skills have improved recently, especially the dual cultivation method of yin and yang, which is unparalleled in the world. If fellow Taoist Nangong is interested, the old man can teach you. Xiao Wuji was a little moved, but after thinking about it for a moment, he shook his head and refused. I appreciate the kindness of fellow Taoist Zaimen, but I'm still young and can't use the skill for the time being. If I want to learn in the future, I will definitely find a fellow Taoist. Old man Tianji shook his head regretfully. Oh, why don't you people understand the joy of dual cultivation? Old man, what I practice is not the evil magic of picking yang and replenishing yin or picking yin and replenishing yang. What the old man is practicing is the authentic Taoist double cultivation method. Not only will it not damage your body, but it will also help increase your power. Why don't you know the goods? Old man Tianji shook his head and turned to leave. A long sigh came from far away, full of helplessness. There was quite a loneliness, like everyone is drunk and I am alone. To be honest, Xiao Wuji is really a little interested in the so-called dual cultivation method. But at present, he is really no need. He practiced the 9 yang magic, and the yang energy in his body was strong and his body was strong. Even without the skill, he was still extremely powerful. Looking at the night time, Xiao Wuji's figure swayed and disappeared into a gust of wind. After breaking through the realm of heaven and man, the speed of Xiao Wuji's Qinggong increased dozens of times. If he created the incarnation of a heavenly being and broke away from the shackles of the physical body, he could travel thousands of miles in an instant. In the blink of an eye, Xiao Wuji returned to the underground palace of the Du Mansion. At this moment, the Du Mansion, the building, has long been empty, and no martial artist dares to stay here. On the outside of Du Mansion, each martial artist looks at the interior of Du Mansion from a distance, looking panicked and not daring to get close. After they escaped from the underground palace, they hid far away. They had no idea what happened in the underground palace. They only knew that a demon was born in the blood cocoon, and then Xiao Wuji, Monk Jingming, and Yun Qinkaiu joined forces to defeat the demon. Then 2 streams of light rushed out of the surface and disappeared. Missing. As for the outcome, they have no idea. The underground palace collapsed. Will nothing happen to Xiao Qianhu and the others? Probably not. Xiao Qianhu and the others are powerful masters. But the strength of that devil should not be underestimated. Evil never prevails over good. No matter how strong the devil is, he is no match for Xiaoqianhu and the others. That's right. If three great masters join forces, how can they fail? We'll just have to wait here for the good news. The heroes were talking about it. Shuehua and Song Liman looked at the Du mansion nervously, with anxious expressions on their faces. Xiao Wuji didn't come back for a moment, so they couldn't rest assured for a moment. Boom! Suddenly a loud noise tore through the night, and the heroes raised their eyebrows looking around. I saw a bright sword light in the ruins in the center of Du mansion. A sword light broke out of the ground, shattered the rock formations, and shot straight into the sky. It's the 6 Aehan art. It's an adult. Your Excellency is still alive. When Shuehua and Song Liman saw the light of the sword, they immediately shouted in surprise. The heroes also recognized Xiao Wuji's light of sword and cheered. Phew! A black shadow flew out from the ground and came to everyone in an instant. The crowd. Taking a closer look, he saw that Xiao Wuji had disheveled hair, was covered in dust, and had blood stains on his body. He felt that Xiao Wuji was a little embarrassed at this moment. Sir, are you injured? It's okay. Shuehua and Song Liman hurriedly stepped forward to help Xiao Wuji. They have been following Xiao Wuji for almost a year, and this is the first time they have seen Xiao Wuji injured. Of course Xiao Wuji's injury is fake, but only in this way can it be concealed from others. I'm fine. Xiao Wuji wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, shook his head slightly and said. Sir, what happened below the underground palace? What about the devil? And what about Master Jingming and Taoist Master Yun? How are they? Is the devil dead? The heroes gathered around and asked all kinds of questions. Xiao Wuji shook his head and said in a low voice that demon is too powerful. Master Jingming and Yundao the chief has died in the battle. If it weren't for the help of a master at the critical moment, I would not have escaped death. What? Master Jingming died in battle with Taoist Yun. How can this be? The heroes were shocked and trembled to the point of losing their voices. Xiao Wuji looked around the crowd and said coldly, the demon in the underground palace is the head of the 3 demons and 6 emperors of the demon sect, the blood demon Yuquan. Yuquan is too strong. Even if I join forces with Master Jingming and Taoist Yun, I am no match for him. The blood demon Nether Spring is actually him. The heroes were even more shocked. No wonder, it turns out that behind the series of murders is the blood demon of the demon sect controlling. Now everything is explained. Damn the demon sect, he actually committed such a murderous crime, everyone can really punish him. Demonic cultists and demons should all die. The heroes gnashed their teeth and were furious. The mysterious master and the blood demon should have left the underground palace, haven't you seen it? Xiao Wuji asked. The heroes looked at each other, a little embarrassed. Shuehua scratched his head and said, Sir, we only saw a ball of wind and a bloody light rushing out of the underground palace, and then disappeared. We can't see clearly at all. The faces of the heroes turned pale, and they were a little ashamed. This can't be blamed on others, but they can only blame them for being too weak. Even if a master flew past them, they could only see a ray of light, and they couldn't even tell whether it was a human or a ghost. Xiao Wuji said, now that the root cause of the murder has been found out, the blood demon involved in the demon sect is no longer something I can handle. This officer needs to return to Beijing immediately and report the murder to the Zhenfu division, and the superior officer will make a decision. The same goes for everyone, please disperse. The blood demon is coming with such force that we cannot handle it. The heroes all nodded after hearing this, with a look of fear on their faces. Master Xiao is right, the blood demon is so powerful that we must not provoke him. Let's all disperse. If you want to take revenge, you can only find an expert from Liangchan Temple or Wuxia Mountain. The demon sect kills innocent people indiscriminately, so we must ask the seniors from Liangchan Temple and Wuxia Mountain to make the decision. He who knows the current affairs is a hero. None of the people present are fools. They will not know that the enemy is a blood demon and still refuse to let him go. After listening to Xiao Wuji's words, they all dispersed. The bounty hunters and speculators were glad that they had picked up one Xiao Ming left overnight and never dared to join in the fun or play tricks again. Disciples of Fihi sect, Luahua sect, and Xingan sect brought the news back and reported it to the elders of the sect, asking them to make the decision. Let's go back to. Xiao Wuji took a deep breath and said. Shuehua said, Sir, you'd better heal your wounds first. Song Liman nodded in agreement and said, Shuehua is right. Your Majesty's injury is serious, so there is no rush to hurry up. Xiao Wuji said, my injuries are not serious. The top priority is to leave Jieyang Mansion, a place of right and wrong. That night, Xiao Wuji rushed back to Jinling with Shuehua and Song Liman. The Demon Sex Layer 0.1, the Blackbird Cave Sky. Nangong Yet. A roar came from the luxurious palace, exploding like thunder, and spread mightily throughout the entire Blackbird Cave. The roar contained terrifying murderous intent, and it directly pulled the weak guards into the illusion, letting out miserable wails. Especially the guard soldiers outside the palace were directly shaken into blood mist by this roar, and no bones were left. Boom! The roar swept back and forth and dissipated quickly, but it had already alarmed all the demons in Suanyao Cave. Teach Senior. This is Lord Suanzun's roar. What happened? Would Lord Suanzun be so angry? It's because of Nangong Ye again. Why is Nangong Ye still lingering? Could it be that he killed someone from my holy religion again this time? To make Master Suanzun so furious, this matter must not be simple. In the palaces, one by one, the senior officials of the demon sect were moved. They were doubtful and wanted to know the truth. But that was Suanzun Shangguan Ao, who had a respected position. Even if they were senior members of the demon sect, they did not dare to ask. Only a few people in the sect dared to face Xianzun directly, and one of them was the leader of the demon cult, Shangguan Wudao. The moment Xianzun roared, Shangguan Wudao found out in the main hall. His body swayed and turned into a ball of golden light. Rushing out of the main hall and flying towards Suanzun's palace. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at Westlake. Chapter 246. The mighty imperial domineering energy spread out, covering the sky and the sun. Shangguan Wudao is different from other demon sect protectors. When he performs his skills, not only does he not have any spooky and terrifying atmosphere, but he is dignified and full of endless imperial majesty. People will know at a glance that this person is a tyrant with the aura of an emperor, and they will feel awe in their hearts. With a flash of golden light, Shangguan Wudao came to Xianzun's palace and saw Shangguan Ao sitting cross-legged on the futon at a glance. At this moment, Shangguan Ao's expression was cold, and his whole body was exuding cold murderous intent. The murderous intent had filled the entire palace. Even if a master of the demon cult's Dharma protector breaks in at this moment, he may be instantly torn into pieces by this murderous aura. Shangguan Wudao released his breath, dispelled the murderous aura, and came to Suanzun. Master, what happened to make you so angry? When Shangguan Ao saw Shangguan Wudao arriving, he took a deep breath, suppressed the roar in his heart, and said, Yuquan is dead, Nangong Ye killed him. Boom! Terrifying murderous aura erupted from Shangguan Wudao and instantly enveloped the palace. Although this murderous aura is not as good as Suanzun Shangguan Ao, it is still comparable to others. What happened? Why did Yuquan meet Nangong Ye again? Shangguan Wudao didn't understand that people in the demon sect were cautious, and the blood demon was even more secretive. Even he, the leader of the cult, only knew roughly his whereabouts. How did Nangong Ye find the blood demon? He even killed him. Shang Guan'ao shaking his head, I don't know the details, but he personally admitted that Nangong Ye killed Yuquan. Before Yuquan died, he had already reached the half-step heaven human realm, but he was still killed by Nangong Ye. 11 Nangong Ye made another breakthrough with that battle, and now he is a true master of the harmony between man and nature. My heavenly incarnation was also killed by his sword. Shang Guanao's voice was hoarse and extremely cold. His eyes were like poisonous snakes, which made people fearful. True harmony between man and nature. When Shang Guanwudao heard the news of Nangong Ye's breakthrough, he clenched his fists and trembled with anger. Even though he was the leader of the demon cult, he also felt powerless against the true master of the unity of heaven and man. The peak of Grand Master he didn't care, even half steps of the heaven human devil cult could kill him. But a true master of the unity of heaven and man could not be killed casually. Even if the demon cult also sent a master of the fusion of heaven and man, they might not be able to kill Nangong yet. The celestial master wants to escape, and even people in the same realm have difficulty catching up. It is impossible to kill him. Only if 2 or even 3 celestial masters join forces to encircle and suppress him, will it be possible to kill Nangong yet. But the demon sect now knows that on the surface, there is only one celestial being, Suanzun Shang Guan'ao. Although there is another one secretly, he has been in seclusion for more than 50 years. He is the previous leader of the demon sect. More than 50 years ago, the Great Zhou Court and the traitor cooperated internally and externally. The attack on the demon cult's lair caused heavy casualties to the demon cult. At the critical moment, that one man fought desperately and escaped with the remnants of the demon cult. But in that battle, that one man was also seriously injured and almost died. It has been more than 50 years since the seclusion, and it still has not come out. Therefore, with the current power of the demon cult, it is impossible to kill Nangong yet. Shang Guanwudao was unwilling to accept it, but he had no choice but to say in a hoarse voice, I will order you to go down, ordered people to secretly investigate Nangong Ye's background information. At the same time, people from the demon sect avoided Nangong Ye for the time being and did not become his enemy. Let's wait until I have a breakthrough. Shang Guan'ao was a little surprised. Are you going to break through? Shang Guanwudao nodded slightly, I have recently realized that I am very close to that step. In as little as a year and a half, or in as much as 3 years, I will be able to break through. When the time comes, the 2 of us will join forces and we will be able to cut Nangong Ye into thousands of pieces and crush his bones into ashes. He successively killed the 2 pillars of my Shang Guan clan, the Ghost Emperor and the Blood Demon. Such a blood feud must be washed away with his blood. Shang Guanwudao waved his robe, and powerful murderous auras surged out, breaking through the palace door and rushing out of the hall. Suanzun Shang Guan nodded proudly, the Shang Guan family must avenge themselves. Nangong Ye must not stay, otherwise he will come. The Shang Guan clan will suffer disaster and will never have peace. But don't worry. The most important thing right now is that you can break through. Wu Dao, you are the strongest genius of my Shang Guan clan in the past 200 years. Your existence is far more important than the entire holy religion. As long as you are alive, the Shang Guan clan will never perish. Master believes that you will be able to lead the Shang Guan clan back to the throne and rule the world again. Jinling City, Imperial Palace, Tongtian Pavilion. The royal family's heavenly ancestor returned in incarnation and merged with the original deity. The heavenly ancestor opened his eyes, with various emotions such as fear, coldness, and anger deep in his eyes. The heavenly ancestor he sighed, then closed his eyes and opened them again. All emotions disappeared, leaving only calm and indifference. Luo Tian, you are upset. Suddenly a voice sounded in his ears, and the ancestor of the royal family immediately restrained his expression and showed a trace of awe. Father! The royal celestial ancestor shouted respectfully. The word Luo Tian is his name. The full name of the royal celestial ancestor is Xiaolushan. And the person who called him is the true heritage of the Zhou royal family, and also Xiaolushan's father, Xiaoyashi. What did you see during this trip? Xiaoyashi's voice came. Xiaolushan said respectfully, there is another person who has broken through to heaven in the great Zhou dynasty. This person's origin is mysterious, his background is a mystery, and he is unfathomable. My son is worried that this person will threaten our Xia family. Xiaoyashi said, the weak eat the strong, the winner is the king, the rivers and lakes are treacherous, everything comes from strength. Instead of worrying about someone threatening you, it's better to focus on improving your strength. As long as you are strong enough, all threats are false. Xia Lushan's heart trembled, and he said respectfully, thank you very much, father, for your teaching. I understand. Xiaoyashi's voice disappeared, and Xiaolushan closed his eyes again and practiced luck. After Xiaoyashi's teachings, his mood calmed down a lot. Big within Zhou territory, Lanja Mountain. Lanja Mountain actually has two peaks, and there is a crack in the middle that separates the two peaks. Looking from a distance, the entire mountain seems to have been split in half with a knife from the middle. There is a practice on the top of Lanja Mountain. The palaces are connected together like a cloud-top heavenly palace. Because Lanja Mountain is shrouded by red auspicious clouds all year round and full of auspiciousness, it is called the Golden Summit of Good Luck by the local natives. The height of Lanja Mountain is more than 3,000 meters, and it is as vertical as a knife or an axe. On the ground, there is only a narrow path-like ladder that can lead to the Yunding Heavenly Palace. However, this ladder does not have any protective measures, and it is sultry and humid on the cliffs of the mountain road. In addition, there are maze formations and phantom formations blocking the way. The way up the mountain can be said to be there are many difficulties and obstacles. If you are not careful, you will fall into the abyss and be broken into pieces. It is said that there is an old immortal living in the Yunding Heavenly Palace. The rivers and lakes are only ranked below the old man Tianji and a few real people from Wuxia mountain. Every year, countless people from the rivers and lakes come to ask for divination, but only a few people can finally reach Yunding Tiangong. Under the moonlit night, in front of the main hall of Yunding Tiangong, there is a middle-aged clerk stood with his hands behind his back. He looked at the stars in the sky, calculated in his hands, and frowned. Strange, strange, really strange. The middle-aged scribe calculated for a long time and found that the sky was in chaos and the front was blurry. He couldn't calculate at all. This was the first time since he became a disciple and saw Taoism. What's wrong, disciple? You seem very upset. Suddenly a voice sounded. The middle-aged scribe immediately turned his head and found that an old man with white beard and hair had appeared behind him. The old man was clearly old Tianji. Disciple meets master. The middle-aged scribe hurriedly bent down and saluted respectfully. Old man Tianji stroked his beard and gently lifted it, and said, "Get up." The middle-aged scribe stood up and asked respectfully, "How come master is back? Could it be that you have already been to the brothels in Jinling city? Are you tired of the courtesans in Jinling?" Before old man Tianji could answer, the middle-aged scribe took out a roster from his sleeve and continued, "Master, don't worry, my disciple has already prepared it for you. Famous brothels in every state in the world, as well as stunning courtesans, and their disciples have all been recorded, and they are all here." After saying that, the middle-aged scribe handed over the roster. Old Tianji coughed, hit the middle-aged scribe on the head, and said angrily, "You rebel, in your eyes, the master is a person obsessed with beauty. Is not it?" The middle-aged scribe did not speak, but from the look in his eyes, it was obvious that this was what he meant. Old man Tianji coughed a few times to hide his embarrassment, and said righteously, "Master, I am playing in this world, looking for people who are destined to be together, and by the way, I can save those who are suffering in the 237 world." Woman. It is precisely because your master is kind-hearted that so many women have escaped from suffering. Enjoy the bliss of the world. The middle-aged scribe didn't say a word, but just looked at old man Tianji quietly. This situation is exactly what he said. I will just watch you show off quietly and never interrupt you. Old man Tianji's face darkened. He took the roster from the middle-aged scribe's hand, tapped his head again, and said calmly, you will know when you reach the level of being a teacher. The middle-aged scribe nodded repeatedly, yes, yes, master's teachings, I will keep them in mind. At the same time, he cursed in his heart. See if I believe it or not. Tianji old man put the roster in his sleeves and said solemnly, okay, that's the end of the joke. I have something important to do when I come back this time. The middle-aged scribe was startled, calmed down his expression, and said solemnly, yes, my disciple understands. Then the two of them walked into the main hall one after another. There was a statue in the center of the main hall. The statue's left hand was clasped behind its back, and its right hand made a counting gesture. It looked up at the sky with deep eyes, as if encompassing the sun, moon, and stars. This statue belongs to Tianji Pavilion. The founder of the sect, he is also the first generation of old man Tianji. His real name has long disappeared in the long river of history, and later generations only remember the 4 words old man Tianji. Old man Tianji came to the statue, bowed respectfully, and then raised his luck. Pointed a finger at the left eye of the statue. The finger force broke through the air, the true energy merged into the eyes, and the eyes shone brightly. The originally ordinary stone eyes suddenly turned into brilliant gems. At the same time, the wall behind slowly opened from the middle, revealing a secret room. There are countless bookshelves in the secret room, and there are countless books on them. These books cover everything and record everything that has happened in this world for hundreds of years. There are famous people in the world. Masters with surnames, their origins, backgrounds, anecdotes of their lives, and even dark secrets. Magic secrets, rare treasures, panacea, everything is included. Here you can know the rise and fall of the dynasty, and you can know the past and future below. Here is the secret of heaven. The old nest of the pavilion hides the most secrets in the world. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at West Lake. Chapter 247. Controlling the Tianji Pavilion is equivalent to controlling the infinite secrets of the world. With these secrets, you can freely command the masters of the world to work for you, and even do things like bullshit and horses. Inexhaustible wealth in 10 lifetimes, supreme status, and peerless martial arts skills are all at your fingertips. There are hundreds of years of accumulation of Tianji Pavilion here, and the foundation is even higher than that of a dynasty. But outsiders only know that this is Lanja Mountain, and there is a good old fortune teller. I don't know that this is the hometown of Tianji Pavilion that countless people in the world are looking for. Old man Tianji walked into the secret room with the middle-aged scribe, and the door to the secret room closed automatically. There are countless night pearls shining in the secret room, illuminating the place as bright as day. This secret room is so important, and fire prevention measures are in place. Old man Tianji walked to the end of the secret room. There was a table with pens, ink, paper, and inkstones on it. Old man Tianji raised his hand, and a book from the bookshelf on one side flew over automatically and landed in front of old man Tianji. This book is actually woven from snow silk. Snow silk is not as sharp as gold silk and can break gold and jade. But it is also tough and invulnerable to water and fire. After being soaked in a special secret medicine, it will not rot even if it is left for 1,000 years. There are 3 big characters written on the cover of the book, List of Heavenly Beings. The middle-aged scribe was shocked when he saw old man Tianji taking out the list of heavenly beings. He knows what the list of heavenly beings represents. This list of heavenly beings has never appeared in the world since it was written by the old man Tianji. and it has not been revised for nearly 30 years. There are only a few names recorded on it, but these names are all top figures in the world. Now that old man Tianji wants to revise the list of heavenly beings, the implications can be imagined. Old man Tianji opened the book, picked up a pen and ink, and wrote a name on it, Nangong Ye. Seeing this name, the middle-aged scribe's eyes widened instantly, and his heart was overwhelmed. Old man Tianji wrote this name, which means that Nangong Ye has broken through to the true realm of unity between nature and man. There is another immortal figure in this world. Old man Tianji wrote down all the information he knew about Nangong Ye. It's just that all the so-called information only includes Nangong Ye's appearance, the martial arts he used, and Nangong Ye's 2 battles. Others, including Nangong Ye's age, identity, background, and sect, are all unknown. Tianji Pavilion has secretly monitored the world for hundreds of years, claiming to be omniscient and omniscient. But I know very little about Nangong Ye. Nangong Ye's origin is a mystery. Perhaps he is someone in disguise, but his true identity is suspected to be. After writing this, old man Tianji stopped writing. Subsequent information is all speculation and will only be updated after verification. Master, isn't Nangong Ye his true face? Behind old man Tianji, the expression of the middle-aged scribe changed again and again. Ever since old man Tianji entered the secret room, his mood has never been calm. Old man Tianji shook his head slightly and said solemnly, I am also guessing what the truth is. Only Nangong Ye I know. Although there is no evidence, old man Tianji has a feeling. It is an intuition he has developed over many years of spying on the secrets of the world. He always feels that the Nangong Ye he sees is not the real Nangong Ye. There is something else about the real Nangong Ye. There are many people in the world who like to use vests. As old man Tianji knows, there are hundreds or even thousands of them. Some of these people are just innate masters, some are strong masters, and even demon sect protectors. Some of them are weak. The reputation of the human vest is even greater than that of the demon sect. For example, the demon sect Beidijun Wuxiang and the Black Emperor Fengmalu, once the vests they use are exposed, they will definitely shock the attention of countless people. But old man Tianji feels that with Nangong compared with the knight, a mere white emperor and a black emperor are nothing. One day, Nangong Ye's vest is exposed, which will definitely cause chaos in the world. After all, Nangong Ye is still the first person he knows to use a strong man who combines nature and man to make the vest. Man. Old man Tianji stopped writing and read what he had written from beginning to end. When the ink marks were dry, he closed it with satisfaction. The Tianren list is the greatest achievement of old man Tianji in his life. Although there are only a few people who can be on the list, but all of them are top figures in the world. Being able to collect their secrets cannot be achieved overnight. I don't know how much effort it took old man Tianji to. It's a pity that this list can't be seen in the world, so we can only let you and I, the master and the disciple, be alone and enjoy themselves. Old man Tianji shook his head and sighed, with some regrets. The list of heaven and man is different from the list of heaven and earth, and the list of hidden dragons on earth. The list of heaven and man records all the powerful people who combine nature and man, and some of them are even stronger than old man Tianji. Once their secrets are exposed to the world, it will inevitably lead to chaos in the world. It will also anger those powerful people in heaven. At that time, Tianji Pavilion will suffer a disaster. Even old man Tianji cannot afford such a price. So he can only seal the list of heaven and man, hoping that 100 or 1,000 years later, this list can be passed down to future generations, so that future generations will know the legend of their generation. By then, he will be remembered in history. Nangong Ye breaks through the union of heaven and man. Only a few people know about this realm. Sword ancestor Chang Kongwuji, Liangchan Temple Xiantong and others naturally will not explain it in detail to their disciples. Except for a few senior leaders of the demon sect, the disciples and disciples of other forces do not know that there is another realm in this world. There was one more strong man who could unite nature and man. Under the moonlit night, Xiao Wuji galloped on his horse and rushed back to Jinling. After breaking through the realm of unity of nature and man, Xiao Wuji already had the power to overturn the table. But he and the demon sect also had the power to overturn the table. Forged a bloody feud. Killed the ghost emperor and the blood demon one after another. The demon sect must hate him to the core and will kill him at all costs. Once his identity is exposed, he will definitely become the target of public criticism. Although he has no fear, he now has a wife, with father-in-law and mother-in-law. Therefore, the vest of Nangongye cannot be associated with Xiao Wuji for the time being. On the surface, Xiao Wuji still has to be the 13th Taibao of the Imperial Guards. Imperial Court. The official background is the best cover for him to hide his identity. But even so, after his breakthrough in skill, Xiao Wuji became more courageous. He did some things more freely, and there was no need to be as hesitant and timid as before. Just like Li Wenbo. Old dog, I'm back. Don't think I can't kill you just because you are hiding in the palace. Your death is coming soon. Xiao Wuji galloped on his horse, with murderous intent boiling in his heart. Blood Demon and Li Wenbo were two old dogs that Xiao Wuji had always wanted to kill. Now that Blood Demon is dead, it was Li Wenbo's turn. In the past, Xiao Wuji did not dare to force his way in the palace, but it was different now. With the power of heaven and man, he dared to break into the palace. When he returned to Jinling City, it was already the evening of the second day. After Xiao Wuji entered the city, he immediately went to the residence of Yuan Xiongqinhu, the governor of Beijing. Informed Yuan Xiong of the incident. Third brother, this is the case. Behind the murder case in Jieyang Mansion, the blood devil of the demon cult is controlling. He is too strong, and his younger brother is no match for him and cannot do anything to him. Xiao Wuji said helplessly. Yuan Xiong sighed and said, I can't blame you. Who would have thought that the blood demon would be the mastermind behind the murder? It's a great blessing that you came back alive. By the way, are your injuries okay? Yuan Xiong asked with concern. Xiao Wuji shook his head and said it's no longer serious. I can recover after practicing for a while. Fortunately, I have Suanya gauze to protect me, otherwise I wouldn't be able to escape from the blood demon's clutches. Yuan Xiong nodded. Fortunately, you are lucky enough to have obtained the world's best defense treasure. If third brother remembers correctly, it has saved you twice, right? Xiao Wuji smiled helplessly. I always feel that after getting the Suanya gauze, the enemies I encounter become stronger and stronger. This is not a good thing. Yuan Xiong said last time it was Kang Emperor Ningbiu, this time it was Blood Demon Yuquan. If you include the Ghost Emperor and the Demon Cult Protector who have never been seen before, you have already seen 3 of them. These demons are all peerless masters. They appear so frequently that the remnants of the previous dynasty can no longer hold back. Jin Yiwei is responsible for suppressing the martial arts and guarding the great Zhou dynasty. If the demon cult attacks in a big way, we will definitely rush to the front. You will meet more masters in the future. Having said this, Yuan Xiong patted Xiao Wuji's shoulder. I don't know whether he was comforting Xiao Wuji or putting pressure on him. Well, you have worked hard this time. Although you failed to catch the blood demon, you finally solved the Jieyang Mansion murder case. Third brother will remember your contribution. You are injured, go back and recuperate for a while first. If there is a mission, third brother will call you. Xiao Wuji nodded. Okay, I'll take my leave. After Xiao Wuji finished speaking, he turned around and strode away. Yuan Xiong stood there with a gloomy expression on his face. After thinking for a moment, he left Beijing Fuzi and headed to the imperial palace. He had something important to discuss with Xia Yongxuan, the commander of the Jinyi guards. At the entrance of Xiao Mansion, his wife Su Weiner led people to welcome him. Xiao Lang. Seeing Xiao Wuji coming back on horseback, Su Weiner hurriedly came up. Xiao Wuji turned over and dismounted, and said with a smile, I will only be out for a few days this time, and you miss me now? Su Weiner's eyes were filled with tears and she said with red eyes, I heard that you were injured, Xiao Lang. Where was the injury? Let me see it quickly. Xiao Wuji frowned and said, how do you know? Does the news spread so fast? The old housekeeper next to Li Hao said it was Shui Beihu who sent someone to say that you are injured and need to recuperate for a while. Xiao Wuji's face looked a little ugly. Shui Hua, please take care of this nosy, too much nonsense. It seems that I need to find more cases for him to handle. Su Weiner said Shui Beihu is also concerned about your health, so he sent someone to tell you. By the way, Xiao Lang, where are you injured? Tell me quickly. Xiao Wuji touched Su Weiner's cheek and said with a smile, don't worry, I just suffered a minor injury. I will be fine after a few days of recuperation. Although Xiao Wuji said this, Su Weiner was still worried. She helped Xiao Wuji into the Xiao Mansion as if he was a seriously ill patient. Entering the Xiao Mansion, Xiao Wuji saw Gongsun Ao from a distance. He was holding a red blood in his hand. The spear stood in the distance like a piece of wood, with a pair of eyes staring at Xiao Wuji. He must have heard some gossip and knew that Xiao Wuji had met someone from the demon sect during this trip. He had a blood feud with the demon sect. Now he is living under the fence for revenge. It is about the demon cult, and he definitely wants to know the accurate information. Xiao Wuji moved his lips slightly, and used his internal power to transmit the message, don't worry, I will tell you everything tomorrow. The voice rang in Gongsun Ao's ears, and no one could hear it except him. Gongsun Ao took a deep look at Xiao Wuji, turned around and walked to Xiao Mansion's martial arts training ground. His heart was confused, and only by practicing martial arts to vent can he calm his heart. Back to the room, Su Weiner ordered her servants to prepare a bathtub and hot water for Xiao Wuji to take a bath. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at West Lake. Chapter 248. Seeing that Xiao Wuji had no wounds on his body, he felt relieved. Xiao Wuji smiled and said, how is it? I said it's okay. Don't worry. The person who can kill your husband has not yet been born. Su Weiner lightly hit Xiao Wuji, Xiao Lang, don't fool me, Weiner also knows some things about the world. Compared with flesh injuries, internal injuries are actually more serious. Xiao Lang suffered internal injuries this time, right? As he spoke, Su Weiner's eyes turned red again and she was about to shed tears. Xiao Wuji touched Su Weiner's head and said, your husband is really fine. If you don't believe it, I will prove it to you. Su Weiner was stunned, how to prove it? Xiao Wuji smiled evilly and said, how to prove it, this proves it. After saying that, she used force in her hands and pulled Su Weiner into the tub. Su Weiner exclaimed, fell into Xiao Wuji's arms, and said in surprise, Xiao Lang, your injury is not healed yet. Xiao Wuji said, whether my injury is healed or not, madam will know soon. 100,000 words are omitted here. The next day, Xiao Mansion's martial arts training ground. Xiao Wuji and Gongsun Ao stood facing each other. Xiao Wuji said lightly, let's take action. Gongsun Ao said, let's forget it. Your injury hasn't healed yet. I'm taking advantage of others' danger by taking action now. Xiao Wuji smiled and said, it doesn't matter, just take action. After saying that, Xiao Wuji put his left hand on his back and faced the enemy with only his right palm. Gongsun Ao's eyes narrowed, and he no longer hesitated at the moment. He brandished his long gun and came at him. With one spear thrust out, the wind and snow withered. The blazing spear turned into a fierce tiger and headed towards Xiao Wuji came to bite him. Roar! Before the force of the gun was reached, the strong wind had arrived, blowing Xiao Wuji's long hair flying. Xiao Wuji did not dodge or dodge, but at the critical moment, he raised his hand and pointed out. The index finger hit with red blood. The tip of the spear blocked Gongsun Ao's shot. An insignificant finger blocked Gongsun Ao's 9 successful blows. The strength of the spear collapsed, and the murderous aura disappeared. No matter how hard Gongsun Ao used it, the spear the tip could not advance even an inch. Xiao Wuji flicked his finger, and only heard a ding sound. Gongsun Ao stepped back again and again, until he retreated 20 or 30 steps. He felt a huge force surging from the barrel of the gun. In that huge force in front of him, he had no power to resist. Like a leaf in the vast ocean, he could only drift with the current. Stopping his retreat, Gongsun Ao's hand holding the gun was trembling, the tiger's mouth had been torn, and blood was flowing. Without further ado, let's stop here. Xiao Wuji shook his head slightly. Gongsun Ao put away his gun and stood up, and couldn't help but clenched his fist. After the confrontation just now, he already understood that the gap between him and Xiao Wuji was already a gulf. In the past few months, he had been practicing hard day and night, he didn't dare to slack off at all, and his skills improved a lot. He thought he could shorten the gap with Xiao Wuji. Unexpectedly, the gap between him and Xiao Wuji became even wider, to the point where he couldn't see his back clearly. Xiao Wuji only used one finger to defeating him lightly, like a warrior teasing a child. This can't help but make Gongsun Ao more urgent. If this continues, how can he take revenge? Don't worry, your strength has improved a lot compared to a few months ago. Xiao Wuji looked at Gongsun Ao and said the road to martial arts cannot be achieved overnight. It must be done step by step and lay a solid foundation step by step. You have a solid foundation and excellent bones, and your path to becoming a great master will not be an obstacle to you. With your current strength, you will definitely be able to break through to the realm of Grand Master in as little as 1 or 2 years, or as much as 3 to 5 years. A gentleman's revenge will last 10 years. Gongsun Ao took a deep breath and nodded slightly. I understand. He can cultivate to the peak level of a master. He is naturally not a brainless idiot. He knows that haste makes waste. He is just a little anxious because he has a blood feud. But he knows that there is no shortcut on the road to martial arts. If you are blinded by hatred, if you take shortcuts with both eyes, you will inevitably fall into the devil's path. Then it will run counter to his original intention. Gongsun Ao looked at Xiao Wuji and asked, I heard that you met the protector of the devil's sect this time. Xiao Wuji nodded, that's right. Who is it? Xiao Wuji said word by word the leader of the 3 demons and 6 emperors of the demon sect, the blood demon Yuquan. Gongsun Ao's pupils tightened, the blood demon Yuquan, who is number 11 on the heavenly ranking. Good. Is he really as strong as the legend says? Gongsun Ao asked again. Xiao Wuji wanted to say that blood demon Yuquan is really strong. After all, he can be ranked 11th on the heavenly ranking. He must have 2 brushes. And after breaking through half a step of heaven, his strength is even more terrifying. But the image of the blood demon beaten to death by him appeared in his mind, and the word strong could not be uttered no matter what. Xiao Wuji could only say to Gongsun Ao, you are still too far away from the blood demon spring. Don't think about whether these are available or not. It's not good for you to be too ambitious. But to Gongsun Ao, these words proved the strength of the blood demon Yuquan. Even Xiao Wuji felt like he was facing a formidable enemy, let alone him. When he thought that the demon sect had such a master, Gongsun Ao couldn't help but he tightened his grip on the red-blooded spear. The blood flowed out from the tiger's mouth, dyeing the gun barrel red. After that, Xiao Wuji gave some pointers on Gongsun Ao's martial arts. Although Xiao Wuji didn't understand marksmanship, in the end of martial arts training, he all reached the same goal through different paths. With Xiao Wuji's current level of martial arts, from a high position, is more than enough to guide a master like Gongsun Ao to the peak. For 4 or 5 days in a row, Xiao Wuji trained at home, and was deeply affectionate with Su Wan'er every day. Finally, on the evening of the 6th day, Xiao Wuji made a move. After Su Wan'er fell asleep, Xiao Wuji opened his eyes. With a thought, another Xiao Wuji appeared out of thin air and stood beside the bed. "Give it to you," Xiao Wuji himself said. "Don't worry, that old dog won't survive tonight." Xiao Wuji's heavenly incarnation smiled slightly and disappeared into the room in an instant. The heavenly incarnation can travel thousands of miles in an instant. The moment he left Xiao Mansion, he had already arrived at Li Mansion. Of course, Xiao Wuji had changed at this moment. He became the golden-faced Lion King. The first time he came here, Xiao Wuji killed Li Dingshan and the Rat King Zhao Huangqiao. The second time he came here, Xiao Wuji kidnapped Li Dingzhang and Li Jingui and his son, and concocted the Wanhuo murder case. The third time he came here, Xiao Wuji failed to assassinate Li Wenbo, BCBB, but killed the blood slayer Ding Xiaotian and the Bihai Crocodile King, and broke Li Wenbo's 2 arms, forcing him to Li Wenbo could only hide in the palace and could not return to his home. This was Xiao Wuji's 4th visit to Li Mansion. Of course he knew that Li Wenbo's old dog was not in Li Mansion, but before killing Li Wenbo, Xiao Wuji had to collect some interest. That day the golden-faced Lion King announced to the world that he would destroy the Li family without leaving any chickens or dogs. Of course, Xiao Wuji would not break his promise. Li Wenbo could hide in the palace, but his son and grandson could not. Except for Li Dingshan and Li Dingzhang, the 2 most talented Li Wenbo's son, Li Wenbo has 6 other sons and many daughters, and there are even more grandchildren. Some of them were affected in previous wars and died long ago. But there are still many people who survived. Xiao Wuji, the next time they came to Li Mansion, they were the main targets. Phew! The breeze blew by, and the golden-faced Lion King disappeared into the night, and entered Li Mansion silently. The terrifying true energy spread out, covering the entire Li Mansion. The mansion was shrouded in darkness. No matter what happened in the Li Mansion, it was impossible to spread outside. This time, the golden-faced Lion King did not hide his whereabouts, but swaggered in from the main entrance. Who dares to break into Li Mansion? The guards discovered Xiao Wuji and immediately roared, wanting to draw their swords and step forward. But before they could finish their words, their brows were pierced by the sword energy. The golden-faced Lion King moved forward slowly, and all the secret guards he encountered on the way, dead soldiers, all of them were pierced between the eyebrows or had their heads cut off by invisible sword energy. "Come on, come on. There is an assassin. It's the golden-faced Lion King. The golden-faced Lion King is here again. Hurry and ask Jin Yiwei for help. We will also send people to the 6 gates." The soldiers of the Li Mansion discovered Xiao Wuji's traces, but as soon as the soldiers appeared, they died in large swaths. The golden-faced Lion King didn't make any movement at all, he just walked slowly with his hands behind his back. The pace was very slow, and the clouds were light and windy. However, the soldiers around him were killed one after another. Some of them even had no time to react, and their heads fell off. The general who led him was so frightened when he saw the golden-faced lion killing him that he urinated and crawled around, roaring crazily. "Someone come quickly! Someone come quickly! The soldiers of the government assemble, the soldiers of the government assemble! Here it comes again! The god of death is here again! The general of the army is going crazy. He wants to cry but has no tears. He is in despair. I thought that being a general in the Li Mansion is a good job. After all, this is the den of the dragon's pond and the tiger's den. No one dares to act wild here. And there is still a chance to climb the thick thigh of Li Mansion, and the future will be bright. But he did not expect to encounter the evil star of the golden-faced Lion King. He invaded Li Mansion again and again, and each time he was killed in rivers of blood. Known as the Li Mansion in Longton Tiger's Den was attacked again and again by the golden-faced Lion King. Broken, come and go as you please. People were coming in and out, just like Li Mansion was his backyard. For the first time, he was lucky and saved his life. The second time, the golden-faced Lion King came quietly and left quietly, and he was safe and sound. The third battle was the fiercest. He ran fast and only broke one arm. Fortunately, he survived. But this is the fourth time. The general was despairing. He didn't think he would be so lucky to survive this time. The general was filled with regret. If he had known that the golden-faced Lion King would come again, he should have resigned. Although he lost his glory and wealth, he could still save his life. Puff! A ray of sword energy shot out, and the general felt a chill on the back of his neck, and then his eyes kept moving upwards. He felt like everything he saw was getting shorter, and he suddenly grew several times taller. His eyes quickly moved up, beyond the roof. The scene in the general's eyes was hanging upside down rapidly, and as the world was spinning, he saw his headless body. Only then did he realize that his head had been chopped off and he was already dead. The light in his eyes quickly disappeared, and finally he fell into darkness completely. The golden-faced Lion King walked slowly, surrounded by endless sword energy. The sword energy was like lively little fish, swimming back and forth under the control of the golden-faced Lion King. The golden-faced Lion King only needs a thought, and the sword energy will become the most powerful murder weapon in the world, harvesting the lives of the Li family. Xiao Wuji entered the front yard of Li Mansion, entered the main hall, then entered the side hall, and finally entered the back house. Wherever Xiao Wuji passed, he left countless corpses. Broken limbs and broken arms can be seen everywhere, and blood and broken flesh are scattered everywhere. In the back house, several of Li Wenbo's children and grandchildren fled in panic under the protection of several masters. However, as soon as they walked out of the room, they bumped into the golden-faced Lion King. Golden-faced Lion King, don't come over. A Grand Master guard stepped forward and roared, this is the Li Mansion. If you kill them, the Emperor will not let you go. It's not too late for you to leave now, Puff. Before he finished speaking, a sword energy flashed past, and the Grand Master's head flew up. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full level magic system. Author, drunk in March at Westlake. Chapter 249. Puff. Before he finished speaking, a sword energy flashed past, and the Grand Master's head flew up. Ah! Behind the Grand Master, a group of men and women in luxurious clothes screamed in horror. These people are old and young. The eldest, 7 or 80, is the same generation as Li Wenbo, and should be Li Wenbo's cousin. There are also several middle-aged people, ranging in age from 30 to 40, who are Li Wenbo's children. The largest number belongs to Li Wenbo's grandchildren, a group of teenagers and young adults. There were even a few children of 3 and 4 years old. Xiao Wuji glanced at them and compared their faces with the information he knew. In addition to entering the palace as a concubine, Li Binjiun has now become a noble concubine. Almost all the blood of the Li family is here. Spare your life, Lion King, spare your life. If you have something to say, please say it, but don't do anything. Just say whatever you want and we can satisfy you. Wealth, power, beauty, natural resources, whatever the Lion King wants, we can satisfy it. I just ask the Lion King to show mercy. Several old men and middle-aged people knelt down and begged for mercy, and women and children all knelt on the ground and cried and begged for mercy. These people had different eyes, including fear, hatred, anger, and murderous intent. The youngest ones were 7 or 8 years old. The children were very scared and hid in their parents' arms. But the way they looked at Xiao Wuji was more of hatred than fear. Although they were young, they were already sensible and knew what hatred was. The murderous intent in their eyes was stronger than that of many adults. People are still cold and cold. What happened today has been deeply imprinted in their minds, and they will never forget this hatred in their lives. As long as there is a chance, they will definitely take revenge. It is these eyes that make Xiao Wuji more determined to eradicate the root cause. Cut the grass without eradicating the roots, but the spring breeze will bring new growth. Since you have decided to destroy the Li family, you can't be merciful at all. No one of Li Wenbo's bloodline can be left. Kill. The golden-faced Lion King didn't talk nonsense, and his eyes were focused. All the sword energy surrounding him was shot out, instantly killing everyone in front of him. Don't blame me. If you do, blame me for being born in the wrong place. Since he enjoys the power, glory, and wealth brought by the Li family, he must also bear the consequences. Xiao Wuji looked at the corpse at his feet, his eyes were cold, and he turned and left. Then Xiao Wuji began to sweep through Li's house, from the east to the west, and then changed directions. All the goods he saw along the way, even a dog or even Xiao Wuji did not let go of even a chicken. Of course, there were people who wanted to escape through other exits on the way. After all, Li's mansion was very big and had many exits. It was impossible for Xiao Wuji to guard all the entrances by himself. But they didn't know that the entire Li mansion has been shrouded by Xiao Wuji's true energy. This Li mansion is equivalent to Xiao Wuji's world. Anyone who is close to the edge of the Li mansion will be sensed by Xiao Wuji. Xiao Wuji only needs to move his mind, and his sword energy can leap forward thousands of meters to kill him. This is the power of the soul. The power to perceive all things is much more powerful than the 6 senses of the naked eye. No one in the entire Li family can escape Xiao Wuji's perception. The killing lasted as long as a cup of tea. Li the mansion has completely turned into a living hell. As far as the eye can see, there are corpses everywhere. It can be said that corpses are everywhere, and blood flows like rivers. But this is an open place, and Xiao Wuji has not had time to kill the people in the dark. There are still many secret rooms in Li's mansion. Underground palace. Xiao Wuji will naturally not let go of these hidden places. The power of the soul spreads, and Xiao Wuji senses the breath of life around him. With a thought, the sword energy shoots out, penetrating the layers of walls, and hiding in kill the people in the secret room. Some of them are hiding in the secret room hundreds of meters underground. The whole body of the secret room is made of black iron. It is invulnerable to weapons, water, and fire. Even if it is bombarded with gunpowder, it cannot be broken open in a short time. The people in the secret room thought they were safe, but suddenly a sword energy broke through the black iron wall of the secret room and shot into the secret room, instantly piercing their heads. The sword energy incarnated by the heavenly being cut through the black iron secret room like cutting tofu. 100 meters the bottom floor can also be cut open easily. After spending more than half an hour, Xiao Wuji finally washed the entire Li mansion with blood and killed them all. On the roof of the main hall of the Li mansion, Xiao Wuji stood with his hands behind his back. The power of the soul spread out and sensed the Li mansion. The breath of life. After making sure that no fish had slipped through the net, Xiao Wuji disappeared on the roof. The entire Li mansion was brightly lit, but there was no sound. Because Xiao Wuji blocked the sound in advance, the outside world knew nothing about what happened inside the Li mansion. No one knew that the entire Li mansion had been blood-bathed. After leaving Li mansion, Xiao Wuji came to the palace in an instant. Compared to going to Li mansion, Xiao Wuji was much more cautious in the palace. Xiao Wuji did not release his aura wantonly, so as not to attract the attention of the royal ancestors in Tongtian Pavilion. Although the palace was large, it could not stop Xiao Wuji's footsteps. Xiao Wuji searched everywhere in the palace, and none of the imperial guards patrolling along the way found him. Existence. However, before finding Li Wenbo, Xiao Wuji accidentally discovered several pairs of wild mandarin ducks having sex in a secret corner. The rules in the palace are strict, and if the imperial guards have any affair with the palace maids, they will be sentenced to death. Xiao Wuji secretly impressed by the courage of these guards and maids. For the sake of temporary happiness, they even risked their lives. Xiao Wuji had no time to care about such things and left quietly. Are there any thieves in the palace? Suddenly, Xiao Wuji noticed a group of sneaky people. They were 7 or 8 people wearing the clothes of forbidden army soldiers, but they did not behave like soldiers. Several people crowded around the leader and walked in a hurry. Although it was dark night, but Xiao Wuji could see clearly. The young man leading the charge was the current Prince Xia Zhengming. Xiao Wuji had met the prince before, so he recognized him at a glance. Why did the prince come to the palace late at night? Still sneaky. Xiao Wuji was suspicious. The royal rules were strict, and the prince was not allowed to enter the palace without an edict, even the prince. In other words, the royal rules restricted the prince even more, because the prince was the most threatening person to the emperor. Throughout the ages, princes have committed murder. It's not like what happened to his father has never happened. If Emperor Jingtai knew that the prince secretly entered the palace late at night, Long Yan would definitely be furious. Even if the prince was not deposed, he would be heavy responsibility. At least I have to shut myself up and think about it for a few months. This is the direction of the harem. No way. No way. Could it be that the prince wanted to? When Xiao Wuji saw the prince leading the people in a hurry towards the harem, he subconsciously thought of some possibility. Don't blame Xiao Wuji for thinking dirty, this kind of thing did happen in the royal family, and it happened many times. Just in time to check it out. Xiao Wuji's mind was racing. The matter involves the prince, so don't blame Xiao Wuji for being curious. If he really catches the prince, it will definitely come in handy in the future. Moreover, when Xiao Wuji enters the palace this time, in addition to killing Li Wenbo, he also wants to kill Li Wenbo. The youngest daughter, Li Binjiun. In order to please the emperor, Li Wenbo sent his youngest daughter to the palace as a concubine in his early years. With Li Wenbo's support, and the emperor wanted to appease the Li family, Li Binjiun became a concubine within 2 years of entering the palace. Among the many concubines, Li Binjiun is considered one of the most favored concubines. If the Li family is to be destroyed, this imperial concubine cannot be kept. Xiao Wuji's body swayed and turned into a shadow following behind the prince and his party. Please give me flowers 0. It was silent and the prince's guards didn't notice it at all. Soon, the prince and his entourage entered the harem and came to the door of a palace. There was a palace maid who had been waiting here for a long time. When she saw the prince arriving, she quickly knelt down to salute the prince, helped the palace maid up and asked in a cold voice, "Are you all ready?" The palace maid said, "Get ready, the imperial concubine is inside." Then the prince led people into the palace, and the vermilion door was quietly closed. Xiao Wuji glanced at the plaque of the palace, and there were 3 characters Shui Fian Palace written on it. As far as Xiao Wuji knew, Shui Xian Palace belonged to concubine Yun Li Binjiun. Residence. Now it's interesting. You can't find anything even if you wear iron shoes. It doesn't take any effort to get there. I didn't expect such a coincidence to happen. Xiao Wuji also didn't expect that he would follow the prince and find Li Binjiun's palace. This saves him the need to search everywhere. Xiao Wuji quietly entered the Shui Xian Palace. All the eunuchs and maids in the palace were not there. He wanted to drive away. After all, the prince had contact with concubine Yun. This matter was top secret and could not be known to outsiders. Outside Li Binjiun's palace, Several of the prince's guards stood guard outside. Xiao Wuji came to the roof of the palace, and there was a subtle sound. The voice suddenly reached his ears. The prince said, "We haven't seen you for a few months. Do you miss me?" Li Binjiun said, "I miss you, but there are so many women around you, who am I?" The prince comforted him. "Didn't I have something important to do a few days ago? I'll come to visit you as soon as I get back to Beijing. Don't you still know my heart for you?" Li Binjiun said sadly, "You will say these beautiful words to deceive me. If you really cared about me, you wouldn't have let me enter the palace in the first place." The prince said, "How could I have thought that Li Chifu would let you enter the palace? If I had known about this earlier, I would have definitely tried to stop it." Li Binjiun snorted coldly, "If you had come to the house earlier to propose marriage, we wouldn't have to be so sneaky today." The prince smiled bitterly and said, "My father has always made the final decision on my marriage affairs, and I am powerless to do so. What my father wants is balance, and the Li family is extremely powerful. If I marry the Li family again, my father will never tolerate it." "Humph, after all, you just don't take me to heart." "No way, didn't I come to see you? I promise that I will come to see you as soon as I get the chance." Xiao Wuji heard everything clearly on the roof, with a strange look on his face, a little gloating. The dog emperor would never have thought that his favorite Yun noble lady would actually collude with the prince. The prince is also very courageous, and he dares to do this thing. And from the conversation between the two, we can know that the prince and Li Binjiun have been secretly communicating for more than a day or two. Before Li Binjiun entered the palace, the prince had already fallen in love with Li Binjiun. But their affairs did not. Others knew that this was an underground love affair. In order to please the emperor, Li Wenbo sent Li Binjiun to the palace as a concubine. In order not to offend Emperor Jingtai, the prince could only watch the woman he liked enter the palace and become a concubine. However, Li Binjiun, although she entered the palace, the connection between her and the prince was not broken. Emperor Jingtai was obsessed with alchemy, and he only summoned his concubine to sleep with him occasionally throughout the year, and the location was always in the Deluo Hall, which just gave the prince an opportunity to have a private meeting with Li Binjiun. As long as everything is taken care of, no one will discover the relationship between them. What Xiao Wuji discovered today was just a coincidence. Dog blood, really dog blood. As expected, the royal family is not the most chaotic, only more chaotic. Although he had already guessed that the prince might be connected with the concubine in the harem, after hearing it with his own ears, Xiao Wuji secretly lamented the chaos in the palace. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at West Lake. Chapter 250. Emperor Jingtai stole the woman his son liked, which was disrespectful to him. The prince had an affair with Emperor Jingtai's concubine, and his filial piety moved the world. The father and son are indeed biological. No one believes them if they are not father and son. It was a good show tonight, and this trip to the palace was not in vain. Xiao Wuji glanced at the palace at his feet, smiled mockingly, turned around and disappeared into Shuixian Palace. Just now, Xiao Wuji gave up the idea of killing Li Binjiun. He felt that keeping this woman would be of great use in the future. But it is a sharp blade that can kill the prince. The prince is the crown prince of the country. Once this black spot is exposed, his reputation will definitely be ruined. At that time, if it affects the whole body, the entire Zhou dynasty will be shaken. Such a good knife, just kill like this, it's a bit of a pity. You're lucky to have saved a small life. Xiao Wuji thought secretly, and left the harem to go to the barracks where the Forbidden Army soldiers stayed. The Forbidden Army barracks were better than the short houses where the eunuchs and maids lived, but they were completely different from the Li Mansion. If the Li Mansion is a mansion, then the Forbidden Army barracks are not even as good as straw in the doghouse. Li Wenbo was forced to live in the Forbidden Army barracks, and one can imagine how scared he was. In fact, Li Wenbo had not slept since the golden masked Lion King assassinated him. A good night's sleep. Even if he hid in the palace, Li Wenbo didn't feel safe. He would be awakened by nightmares every night, and when he woke up, he would find that his whole body was soaked in cold sweat. Then he could no longer sleep and would sit up all night at dawn. Li Wenbo always felt that the golden-faced Lion King was beside him, as if he was watching him all the time and would come out to take his life at any time. He was frightened day and night and worried too much, which made Li Wenbo's spirit worse and worse. This over the past few months, Li Wenbo's body has become weaker and weaker, his hair has turned white, his face is full of wrinkles, and he exudes an aura of decline. He is no longer the powerful person he once was, with one person under him and 10,000 people above him. He is now just a miserable old man who is afraid of death. Officials from the King Liu faction took the opportunity to suppress the Li party in the court, greatly reducing the Li party's right to speak. Li Wenbo wanted to fight back, but he is now weak and he has no energy to fight back. After all, compared with his own life, power and status are really insignificant. Li Wenbo used to think that he was not afraid of death. He could give up everything, even his own life, for the sake of supreme rights and status. But now only then did he realize that he was afraid of death. If he could, he would give up everything he had now, just to save his own life. Tonight, Li Wenbo tossed and turned, unable to sleep. He was angry and upset, and he felt uncomfortable no matter how much he slept. And that feeling came again. He always felt that there was a pair of eyes staring at him in the dark. Damn golden masked Lion King, if it weren't for you, I wouldn't have fallen to this point. The irritated Li Wenbo grabbed the soothing incense burner beside the bed and slammed it on the ground. This was the soothing incense prescribed to him by the imperial doctor, saying it could help him sleep. But after using it, it had no effect at all, and he couldn't sleep. Li Wenbo, you seem to miss me very much. Suddenly a voice sounded in Li Wenbo's ears. The moment he heard the voice, Li Wenbo was stunned and his body stiffened. A stream of cold air rushed from the tailbone to the Tianling cap, making the hair on Li Wenbo's body stand up and his heart beating wildly. He could hear his heartbeat clearly and felt that his heart was about to jump out of his throat. He would never forget this sound in his life. He was awakened by this sound countless times in his sleep. Li Wenbo turned his head stiffly and saw a tall, burly man was looking at him with a playful expression. His green eyes were like two will-o'-the-wisps. The man in front of him was the biggest fear in his heart, the golden-faced Lion King. Ah! Li Wenbo screamed, someone is coming, someone come quickly. There is an assassin, come and catch the assassin. Where are people? Where have they all died? Li Wenbo yelled in panic, heartbreaking. He looked at the golden-faced Lion King as if he had seen a ghost. He was so frightened that his voice was hoarse due to too much panic. The golden-faced Lion King crossed his arms and stood quietly. Seeing Li Wenbo roaring without stopping, the golden-faced Lion King had a playful look in his eyes and a faint sarcastic sneer at the corner of his mouth, as if he was looking at a monkey. Scream, shout loudly. Even if you scream until your throat is broken, no one will come to save you. Xiao Wuji's true energy has enveloped this barracks, isolating it from the outside world. No matter what happens in the room, no one outside will know. Li Wenbo shouted until his throat hurt and he coughed violently, but there was no response. Finally, Li Wenbo was desperate. He collapsed on the bed. Li Wenbo looked at the golden-faced Lion King desperately, and said in horror, what grudges do I have with you? Why do you want to exterminate my Li family? Don't say it's to avenge your brother, I don't believe it. It has been several months since the golden-masked Lion King assassinated him. During such a long time, Li Wenbo has thought about the grudges between the Li family and the golden-masked Lion King hundreds of times. He is very sure that the golden masked Lion King, the purpose of destroying the Li clan is not for revenge. If revenge was really wanted, the golden-faced Lion King would have killed Xiao Wuji long ago. Compared with the Li clan, Xiao Wuji would undoubtedly be easier to deal with. There is no need for the golden-faced Lion King. Keep Xiao Wuji and deal with the behemoth of the Li clan first. So there must be other reasons why the golden-faced Lion King insists on destroying the entire Li clan. But Li Wenbo thought about it hundreds of times and broke his head. He couldn't think of the reason. The golden-faced Lion King smiled coldly. Li Wenbo is indeed Li Wenbo. He is not stupid after living for a long time. He is different from your son and grandson. Tell me. Li Wenbo roared loudly, and veins popped up on his neck. The golden-faced Lion King said, I don't want to say it, I want you to die with your eyes open. You'd better go to hell and think about it, and come to me for revenge in the next life. After saying that, the golden-faced Lion King pointed out and hit Li Wenbo's eyebrows. With a pop, blood flowers bloomed, and a blood hole appeared in Li Wenbo's eyebrows. He fell down helplessly. His eyes widened, and there was still some reluctance. He wanted to know the real reason why the golden-faced Lion King wanted to destroy his Li family. He was unwilling to die in such an unclear manner, and he would not rest in peace. It was a pity that the golden-faced Lion Wang does not intend to let Li Wenbo be a clear ghost. He just wants Li Wenbo to die with his eyes open. So many people who were assassinated by Li Wenbo in the past, how many of them know the real reason why they were killed? There are so many people who will die with their eyes open. Xiao Wuji now does it's just a way of treating others in their own way. This old dog who had all the power in the world and was hated by all people is finally dead. Ding, it was detected that the host killed Li Wenbo, the leader of the dynasty, and completed the task of paying blood for blood. Do you want to receive the reward? Receive. Ding, congratulations to the host for obtaining the full level 10,000 swords and returning to the section. The rewards are being distributed and have been completed. Boom. A great amount of true energy poured into Xiao Wuji's body, and a villain appeared in Xiao Wuji's mind, quickly practicing sword skills. The sword skills were ordinary, just the most common basic sword skills. Beginners can understand and learn them. Swordsmanship. But Xiao Wuji knew that this was the return of Wang Jian to the clan. The return of 10,000 swords comes from the world of wind and cloud. It is the supreme secret book that countless sword masters dream of. It is profound and unfathomable. Returning to the clan with 10,000 swords represents the highest level of swordsmanship. Once you use the returning clan with 10,000 swords, it is like a servant meeting his master, or worshipping a god. As soon as the sword moves out, unparalleled sword power emerges from the body, and the body shape can turn into a puff of green smoke, and the power spreads out in all directions. Countless flying scrolls of sharp swords can be attacked in groups or combined into one, and their power is astonishing. The sword energy is flying all over the sky, the sword power is like a net, it is unparalleled and it is a spectacle. Of course, the swordsman can also control Wang Jian to launch attacks. The enemy has no way to hide, no way to escape, and ultimately cannot escape the fate of being torn apart by thousands of swords and falling into the sky. Wang Jian Gui Zong's mental method Wang Qi generates itself, and the sword rushes into the waist points. Gui Yuan martial arts, Zone Yuan skill is long. This sword technique must be practiced by abolishing martial arts. Compare the formula Qi leaves the wrist, but it rushes too much. The world is turned upside down, softness is transformed into strength. Practitioners cannot force their luck, otherwise they will go crazy. However, Xiao Wuji has systematically instilled his skills, and he can practice without having to abandon his martial arts, and he can reach full level in an instant. After learning 10,000 swords and returning to the sect, Xiao Wuji felt a sword energy generated in his body. This sword energy is the essence of Wanjian Gazong. It can help Xiao Wuji control the sword, spiritually, heal his wounds, and preserve his heart. The various methods are extremely miraculous. At the same time, the two supreme swordsmanship skills of Holy Spirit swordsmanship and Wanjian Gazong were integrated, allowing Xiao Wuji's swordsmanship to reach an unprecedented level. Xiao Wuji felt that his strength had improved again. His control over the power of heaven and earth has more than doubled. It's a pity that I don't know the detailed division of the realm of heaven and man, and I don't know what level my current strength is. There are very few powerful people who can unite nature and man. There are no more than 10 people in the Great Zhou dynasty. Even if the surrounding countries are included, there are definitely no more than 15 people who can unite nature and man in the whole world. Most of them are in seclusion all year round. No one even knows about the unity of heaven and man. Therefore, the relevant information about the unity of heaven and man is extremely precious. Xiao Wuji has read all the Jinyue files, but he has not seen any relevant records about the unity of heaven and man. Heaven and man, how to divide the realm of unity, how to continue to practice upward, and how to break through to a stronger realm of shattered void. This information is extremely precious, and there are very few forces that have these related 4.0 records. If you want to know this, you can only go to Old Man Tianji. Xiao Wuji thought of Old Man Tianji. If there is a force that knows the most secrets in the world, it must be Tianji Pavilion. And Old Man Tianji is the master of Tianji Pavilion, so he must know more information than Xiao Wuji. He took one last look at Li Wenbo's body. The golden-faced Lion King turned around and disappeared into the room. The incarnation of heaven and man traveled thousands of miles in an instant. In the next breath, Xiao Wuji had left the palace and arrived at the Xiaoxiang Pavilion on Hualio Street. It was still early, and Xiao Ji had finally done everything he needed to do. Xiaoxiang Pavilion. The old bastard knew the golden-faced Lion King, and when he saw the golden-faced Lion King coming, he hurriedly greeted him and respectfully brought the golden-faced Lion King to the most luxurious private room. Various wines and dishes were served on the table, and the Warren who accompanied him was the most beautiful in the Xiaoxiang Pavilion. The dancing girl is the best dancer in Xiaoxiang Pavilion. The harpists and musicians are also the best. The golden-faced Lion King drank alone. When he finished his wine, the Warren next to him refilled it. The Warren's face was filled with smiles, his eyes were full of awe, and the hand holding the wine bottle was trembling. Xiao Wuji grabbed the Warren's hand, and the Warren was slightly startled. The golden-faced Lion King said in a low voice, "Your hands are so cold, what's the matter, are you afraid of me?" The Warren sneered and said, "Your Excellency is a distinguished guest of the Xiaoxiang Pavilion. Huaying should be in awe of you."